everybody. Welcome to Roundtable Live for December 22nd, 2016. I'm Bear Taffy with Rock Lee Smile, Northern Line, and joining us again is Last Gray Wolf for our 2016 Indie Review Show. It's the big one. It's the big one. Austin, thank you again for being here, man. Appreciate it. Long time cast member now. You're basically a supporting role. We're going to have to nominate you next year.
We could just give him Mathis's money from the Madrina sponsorship for this week.
Yeah.
Seems fair.
Yeah. That seems like a good Christmas present to Mathis. It's a really good way to bring out the holiday spirit.
How dare you spend time with your family?
I loved the comment that I saw. I don't remember which subreddit it was, but someone was asking why Austin wasn't in the Astroneer series, and they said something like, "Oh, his contract's expired," and they're renegotiating the way he's involved with the collaborative series. But
I wanted a raise. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm greedy.
Well, if you want to, a lesson on how to be Mathis today, Stardew Valley, Stardew Valley, Stardew Valley, Stardew Valley.
It's like, he's just been playing it all day today?
No, it's just we're talking Indie Game of the Year stuff. Whenever Mathis talks 202016, he has to mention Stardew Valley.
That's true. That's true.
I'll mention it for him. I like that game.
Yeah, Austin would have mentioned it, actually.
Oh, God damn it.
It's a good game.
That'll be one of many. We are going to be breaking down our favorite indie releases of the year. This is a little bit of a sister episode to our Game of the Year discussion last week. We mentioned a few indie titles in there as well. We're going to be primarily focused on the indie releases this episode, and we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it just because this took 3 hours last year, so I'm trying to whittle it down a little bit. So let's jump into the thick of it right now. We're starting in January, kind of going to go chronologically as best we can. We're using a thread on our subreddit, by the way, roundtablepodcast.reddit.com. Thank you very much, Straw Rat, for putting this together. We really appreciate that. And we are going to be trying to cover as many of the games as we covered this year today. So let's do it. Starting in January with a pretty big one right out of the gate is The Witness. So, Nick, you want to take the helm there, I'd imagine?
I've described this game about 17 times on the show, so I don't think I'm going to do that anymore.
That's fair.
Austin and I both enjoyed The Witness, and that's what I want to say about it. No, what else is? I've literally described it.
No, you're right. It is. It's just. It's got to be mentioned because it is like a very big release this year too, and it's probably based on what you've told us one of your top 5 indies of the year. I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, just barely didn't make it into my top 3. Mm-hmm. Wait, was it my third? It might have been my third. Austin, why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, I do want to hear that. That's my game. Actually.
That's
say the words that I always say, but out of your mouth.
No, I mean, you'd think I'm the Gungeon guy. I'd say Gungeon's my best game of the year, but no, Witness to me, it was like an experience, man. Like, just the game at a consistent pace blew me away, and just kept making me just sit there and stare at my screen. Like, did that just happen? That not even kind of the puzzles. The puzzles were great. The design of the game is great, but just the way it can just take the environment and be like, look at this. Look how cool that is. It's like, Witness, you're right. That's really cool. And it just, a game hasn't done that since Fez to me. So, without a doubt, one of the best puzzle games, one of the best games I've ever played, I think, ever.
It's beautiful. I really love the art style for it. What would you call the art style for it, out of curiosity?
Kind of like a painting kind of thing. I'm not sure.
It's got this
it's a very pastel
thing to it.
Yeah.
That's really hyper real lighting that doesn't quite match. It's two things overlaid on each other that are a little dissonant, but actually work really well together. And I think if you think back on the game, the thing that'll probably stick out graphically most is the way light is used in that. Throughout the whole thing, there's just stark, beautiful examples of lighting everywhere.
And the
pretty
lighting
much
is
at any position you look.
It's sometimes used in the puzzles too, right? You kind of have to pay attention to that.
There's a whole section that's all light puzzles.
It's great.
I mean, I liked it, but I think it's one of those games where I like the idea of it more than the execution. Because I the enjoyment is very high-minded for the most part. In contrast to something Quake is on one end where it's every 2 seconds you're getting some form of gratification, and The Witness sometimes it's once every hour you're getting that gratification.
Right.
I fell somewhere in between that and just couldn't find a rhythm in that game where I would be this is beautiful. I'm so excited to solve puzzles, and I'd solve 2 puzzles in an area and just be I'm stuck on the last one, and I don't want to just like I'm not getting the rule, and I'm trying to think critically about it, but I'm not getting it, so I just kind of like it fizzled out for me. But I think this is one of those games that I want to like more than I do.
Yeah,
it did have a better rhythm though than I think you picked up on, because like you're getting that little burst every other puzzle or so when you get to like a new gestalt. And it culminates in like the big meta puzzles, and then the environmental puzzles are even like icing on top of that cake. But I guess if you just weren't feeling the language, it's a little tough to get into there.
Yeah, I can empathize there with you for sure. I got burnt out pretty quick on it, but that's just I'm not a big puzzle game guy. It takes a lot to really draw me into a puzzle game, and usually what that is not even the puzzle gameplay. It's usually like the story or the characters or the art style or something like that. So.
Shrek Swamp can eat my ass. I hated that place so much.
The Tetris puzzles, man, those were the worst. I agree. No, The Witness is a game that I totally understand if people don't like it. Like that's a game where I'm not gonna like defend it, be like, no, wait, but you just didn't enjoy it right. It's a puzzle game.
Like The Last Guardian.
Talk about that at the end of the show, I guess.
Well, that's not going to qualify, I don't think. So thank God.
Oh yeah, it's AAA.
But let's go to Tharsis real quick. Another January release. I think Ryan, you played a little Tharsis, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm the dude who goes to one of the dudes who goes to bat for Tharsis because people are like, oh, it's just Yahtzee, but in space, and I'm like, every game is that. Tharsis just shows you the dice. It actually shows you what's happening instead of just obscuring it behind like a background of like a veneer of smoke and mirrors, I guess is what I'm saying. But
right.
I don't think it's like one of the best games of the year, but I do enjoy games that are RNG heavy, even if they end up being unfair, because they can be unfairly positive for you as well. And I had a pretty good time with it. That was the one where we like tried to do multiplayer.
We played it on the NLSS. I enjoyed it as well.
I'm glad to hear that. Like I liked it. It's multiplayer, but you had to tell me to input what to do for your actions, or like I can't remember.
I don't remember what we did.
Space food truck as well.
I didn't realize this had multiplayer at all. Are you guys talking about just like simultaneously playing, or was there a?
I think
we all played it at the same time.
We played simultaneously, but I might have done it with someone else, like having them pass me inputs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. But yeah, I think that this game highlights an interesting discussion that might not be good for today's show, but the discussion is like, how much do you like RNG in games? And we came across that discussion again this year with Darkest Dungeon, where sometimes like you just get bad rolls and there's nothing you can do about it. But I thought Tharsis was pretty good.
I really enjoyed Tharsis. I like this sense of suspense that it conveys, almost from like turn 2. Like really, you're immediately in like great danger right out of the gate, right? Like from the intro cutscene. But every single thing that happens is like a crisis situation that you're averting every week, or not every week, but every round. And I really enjoyed the atmosphere of it. The presentation I thought was great, and like you said, like I kind of enjoy the front-facing RNG mechanic is kind of a nice change of pace too. So yeah, big thumbs up for Tharsis for me. I liked it a lot.
I liked it to an extent, but I think where it fell short for me was that I wanted it to be more of a platform than like an individual set of linear scripted events.
Okay.
I was hoping there would be other angles that it would take this concept to.
Sure. But
it kind of just went along the same story beats each time, and that was the whole game, which is fine. It's just, I don't know, I thought it could have been more.
I agree with you.
It was very like, it was a board game basically that was ported digitally, which I'm a sucker for, but not everybody likes that style of gameplay, which is fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next up, did you play Tharsis, Austin?
I did not.
No? Okay. Next up is Golf with Your Friends. Came out in early access this year. It's a good time. Mini golf with your friends. It works. It's fun.
There's not a lot you can say against it unless you just hate mini golf, right? Like, I mean, it functionally works. There are still problems because it's not finished yet. It's still in early access. And there's still, not most of the content that's going to be in it. The big thing I'm waiting for is that level editor, but I don't know when that's going to be. For now, though, it's certainly hit the nice spot for me of, like, I've always wanted this mini golf game to exist. They nailed it. Just keep giving me more.
Yep. Right there with you.
Yeah, it's fine, but I guess I want more. Like, I want more courses to come out faster, but it's a small team, and I guess the biggest thing I can say against it is that it's, like, just competent, but somehow that is enough to make it stand out in a world of like 10 mini golf games coming out annually. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's stellar. I think it just sort of does. Let me put it this way: except for making that spreadsheet for the Tournament of Shame, I would never ever play it solo. And I think at this point in its lifespan, if we did it for like 2 hours on a stream, by the end of it, I'd be like, I don't want to touch it for like a week. But we do have like 30 hours in it in general, so.
I really don't think it was meant to be played as much as we're playing it. I just personally love the thing, and you guys have been putting up with me loving it.
God, we do have 30 hours, and I just checked. That's ridiculous.
Oh God, yeah. Now I gotta look.
They at least they let you mix it up with some of the physics stuff and the ball shapes and stuff, which is they didn't have to do that. It does add a little bit of longevity, but granted, a bit superficial as well.
19 hours, not as bad.
You know what? You got me curious.
Do it.
31 hours.
Trump card.
Bang on.
I kind of want to go to bat against the it's only competent argument. I don't know how much more you really need to add to it, Like, I feel like the simplicity of it almost adds to its elegance, in a manner of speaking. What would you add to it?
It's the best mini golf game that I've played on PC.
I think just taking away, like, a golfer and the golf club actually makes it a little bit more fun to play in a weird way. Just makes it smoother.
If you had like an awkward little dude standing there, it might be a much worse game, weirdly enough. Okay.
It does need more content, but it's not finished yet, is the thing.
Right.
And the online actually works now, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think for $6 it's pretty good. 4 courses is like, we've played them so many times with like every permutation of them that I'm just kind of like, give me some more.
Yep. Next up, coming out of early access this year was Darkest Dungeon. Game I've talked about extensively. I want to hear just kind of final summation thoughts from you guys about Darkest Dungeon, really. Austin, how much of it have you played?
I actually only played about an hour of it, and it just didn't grab me enough to keep going.
Yeah?
I don't know. Maybe I didn't give it enough time, but
it's too hard for you?
Yeah.
Well, that's like an hour. You got like through the intro tutorial mission and then into the estate, right?
That's why I say I don't think I gave it enough time. But for some reason, that game just slipped by me, and I never went back to it.
That's fair. What do you guys think?
I think Darkest Dungeon is really good, except one campaign is like almost too long for me. Like that's the thing that stopped me is like get to the point where I've got like 50 hours in Darkest Dungeon and I haven't even touched the 4th part of it yet. Like I always peter out of enthusiasm before I actually get to the end of it. But I really like the emerging gameplay of like who's going to live, who's going to die on this mission, trinket management, inventory management, the risk reward that's involved with like I already got the objectives but I want to go back and like look for more stuff. Like I think it's a really really well designed game. I just think it's a little too loose with its with the length of its campaign. If its campaign was like 20 hours long, if it was like 30 missions, I would be all in. But because of the fact that it's, I don't know, you have like, how long did it take you to finish your first ever Darkest Dungeon run? Like 200 episodes or something?
Yeah, well, no. It was like, so through just the regular game, I think it was something like, I don't know, I could go check, but I think it was like 150. So it took a long time. It was probably like 80 hours worth of gameplay, but they are adding a new mode, coincidentally, that reduces the campaign length quite a bit. It's like Radiance mode, I think is what they're calling it. But
that's neat.
Yeah, that's a common gripe I've heard, and that it's compounded on by the fact that when you lose one of those high-level characters like level 5 or level 6, that's a big grind to actually bring them back up. They've been addressing that, too, over the course of like the last year or so. They've made some small changes to the estate and whatnot to make it a little easier to bring those guys back up from the lower levels, but it is still a bit of a grind. I'm playing the Pitch Black mod now too, which is even worse. It makes it like twice as difficult, and it's just so I don't know what I'm doing, but it's fun actually. I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
It does also suffer from like the if you lose like a level 4, 5, or 6 character, and you want to replace them, you got to do like some seriously like boring grinding.
Yeah.
Like going back, taking a level 1 squad like all the way through until they get to level 3, and then taking them back up, through the second level dungeons, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of annoying, but I think like I like that game less the more I played it, but the more I don't know. Like at the start of the game, at the start of every Darkest Dungeon campaign, I was super stoked. I was like, this is an incredibly smartly designed game that's a lot of fun. But like the first time you get ground down by like 4 crits in a row and lose somebody that you've had the whole time, and you're like, oh, I have to go recruit the same class and then build them back up and invest like so much money to get them back to this point. I think it does that a little bit worse than XCOM does. Because in like XCOM, no matter what, you're sort of moving forward. Like you lose somebody, but if you just like grind somebody back up, there's a consequence to it because it takes you forever, and like the aliens get more and more better technology, and like they get more aggressive.
Right.
But in Darkest Dungeon, you're like, okay, I'll do 8 missions in a row with this like level 1 unit on the squad. So
see, one of my favorite things to do is do a protect the wimp party composition where you go into a level 5 dungeon with a level 0 guy, and the whole point is just keep him alive as long as you can and see if you can make it through. Yeah, no, I agree. It is a little bit of a grind every now and then, but I still like the game itself enough. I really like the balance of mechanics, especially now that I've invested so much time to the point where I really feel I understand most of it fairly well. I enjoy the satisfaction I get out of planning according like I usually play this. I don't really backlog it very often because I kind of like playing it every day because it's like a morning routine for me of sitting down for like 30 minutes, planning out the estate, seeing what I need to do, and what kind of party I want to put together. And it's really nice. I enjoy it. But yeah, I'm getting my stress relief out of playing Darkest Dungeon every day. That's my routine.
Beautiful art as well.
Yes.
Like, I think that's kind of been burned off because it entered early access in like 2014, so people are like no longer enamored by it. I think it was 2014. It was
like the very beginning of 2015.
Yeah, you're right. Because I was thinking like I was in my old apartment, but then I moved in like March of 2015, so it falls in an awkward period.
It's a betraying mnemonic device. All right. There's Darkest Dungeon. How about Pony Island? Nick, you played that, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, actually. It was a very odd game that I had no idea was going to exist, and once it did exist, I had no idea that I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. Mm-hmm. So it's, for those that don't know about Pony Island...
It's $1.64 on Steam right now, by the way, in case you're curious.
You should buy it. You should just buy it and then not listen to me describe what it is, because once I describe it, I'm going to take some of the magic away.
It's one of those games.
I almost don't want to show the trailer, but I'm going to.
Like, the superficial elevator pitch is like, what if Satan made a game about ponies and it involved a lot of programming? Mm-hmm. And so you're in the role of doing some of the programming to help a piece of artificial intelligence overcome Satan and escape the thing you're stuck in with the ponies. It's weird. Just play it, honestly. Just play it.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if you really don't want to play it, you could watch my playthrough of it, but I recommend you play it yourself.
It's got great reviews, overwhelmingly positive, so I think people echo your sentiment there.
You got to give it, like, an hour, though. Like, if you think that you don't have any idea what's going on, just wait a little longer before you pass judgment, because every time you think you know what's going on, it gets a little deeper. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's super deep, but, like, it at least goes to some places you wouldn't expect. So, give it a minute before you decide.
In fact, I'm adding this to my cart. There we go.
Good.
For $1, I mean.
Really, it's not that tough.
I would love to see you guys play. I would love to see Ryan do it on a subscriber stream, actually. You could do it in, like, 2-3 hours.
Yeah, I hear that game is, like, programming, so...
Yeah, it's very minor programming. It's not. It's more just logic, but you'd get it right away.
Sweet.
Very simple puzzles.
How about Punch Club? Was that the only one? Played Punch Club?
Yeah, I never actually got around to playing that, and then it passed me by.
I don't think you need to, really. It doesn't have a lot of staying power. I had fun with it back in the day. So it's a fighting sim game where you're not actually doing anything during the fights. You just sort of sit back and let your guy do its thing. It's kind of like playing with an AI fighter in Soul Calibur or something like that, where you're like, or not Soul Calibur. What was the one where you could like build up an AI character in an arena going up against other computer characters? Which one was that? That was that Soul Calibur?
Tekken 6 thing?
I'm not sure. But yeah, anyway, like
no, I don't think it was.
It's like that. And it's got a 8-bit art style. It's fun, but it runs out of steam like so fast. Like it comes to a screeching halt. It's weird. There's a point where you I don't want to spoil it, but like there's a threshold you cross where things just become the exact same until you get to the end, and then it just falls flat on its face. And I was really disappointed by that because I had actually invested myself a bit in the story and like what was going on, and then it just decided to take a giant dump on me at the end of it. So that left me with a bad taste in my mouth because of the giant dump. But
you know, the order, I was going to say, the order that you said those sentences in.
Glad you noted it too.
The little phrasing there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I played like maybe 30 minutes of the demo, and I was like, it's like a dating sim, but about
Punching.
boxers.
So
It's a punching sim.
It did something that is like my, maybe not number one, but close to my number one thing with games, which is like, oh, OMG, it's so random. Like, your dude eats that hamburger out of a garbage can, and then, I don't know if this is just because it was a vertical slice, and then wakes up in the sewer and fights a Ninja Turtle. And I was like, you know, if you want me to watch 10 minutes of your game, that's kind of funny. If you want me to play 20 hours, this is the kind of stuff where I'm like, I don't care about this at all. Like, this is working like the exact opposite way that you would want me to, like, hook me in with the mechanics and then give out the rewards that way, instead of being like, oh, Colonel Sanders, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken and stuff like that. Like, it just doesn't matter.
that
to me
happened
at all,
a lot too, man. It was like pervasive through the whole game, just reference after reference after reference. That was like what it was relying on half the time.
It sounds like they were using the game mechanics more as a lens to fit in puns. Like, that was the main thrust of the game.
That's what they really wanted.
Out of curiosity, if your character was actually Rocky, would it have been a better game?
I don't think so.
No, I would have been more mad, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you see a Steam game, and, you know, if you see a Steam game called, like, Abduction, you're like, I don't know what that's about. I'm going to click on it and, like, learn something. If you see a Steam game called, like, OMG XD Donald Trump Nuclear Simulator, you know, you're like, I don't want to play that. I get it. You didn't make a game, you made a joke, and the game's not good, so the title has to sell it. Like,
I made a game with boxers in it.
I mean, I don't mean to be insulting to Punch Club, because it's actually, from what I hear, at least it's competent, although everybody liked it for like 4 days, and then everybody now says it's garbage. But like, I kind of got that vibe, at least from the vertical slice.
For the first, this is a weird sentence, for the first 10 hours I loved it, and then I hated it. So there you go. Let's go into Move or Die. That came out of early access this year? I didn't realize that. I thought it was still in early access.
I could see
Fun.
that.
Okay.
Fun game.
There you go.
Terrible netcode.
Yes.
That's
Would
pretty much
be
it.
significantly more fun if it worked.
Yep.
I like the way that they dole out new avatars and stuff like that, and new game modes is at least kind of novel by linking it to the Steam Marketplace, but also a little weird, where I sort of just wish that at least all the modes were unlocked, so that we played a not insignificant amount of time in that game, and every single time we still have speedrun, Candy Rush or Sugar Rush, whatever it's called, you know, disappearing platforms, falling blocks. Like, we get the same games every single time, despite there being more of them than we've even seen, I think. So
I think it's just not a huge number in total.
I think that is conceivable as well. And the netcode, it can't be expressed enough. The netcode, like, ruins that online experience. For an hour or two, if you're willing to just be like, it doesn't matter who wins, let's have some fun, it's good. But if you ever want to, like, if you ever care about who's winning, then...
Like, well, play it locally, I guess, if you can.
True. The stuff you see on your screen is not what the other people see.
I unlocked that rare cat, and then I sold it on the Steam Marketplace and got like $1, and then I still had the cat.
Nice.
There you go.
I'm pretty happy about that.
That's how you cheese them.
Yeah.
Ryan, you want to talk about Westport Independent real quick?
Yeah, the Westport Independent. Man, I'm like a super downer so far.
January wasn't too strong.
Suck, don't they?
Like, every single game, I'm like, it's not as good as anyone else thinks it is. No, but like the Westport Independent, like, not to be super insulting to it, but it is like a worse Papers, Please. Like, it tries, it's got the same art style. It tries to do what Papers, Please does and have like gameplay mechanics that are linked in with the way the narrative gets told, but it's a little basically, like, to give you the too long didn't read synopsis. You play like the editor of a newspaper in like a post-Soviet era, like propaganda, fascist sort of government, So you have the choice of like printing the news that's pro-government or editing the news to be pro-rebellion, and then like, you know, your writers have a spectrum of opinions. They'll be pro-rebellion or they'll be pro-government, and they'll refuse to write articles. But it's just really boring. Like the way that they give you an article and there's basically just like 3 things that you can change. So the headline will be like, you know, police gun down innocent person, or like police stop robbery suspect. And it's very like black and white the way that you frame it. And then there's also like, you know, it's, you edit that and then it doesn't really matter that much, it seems. And then there's like a weird kind of like tycoon aspect as well, where you sort of want to sell as many newspapers as possible to pander to people in different districts. It's just sort of like, it's a little messy. It's a very interesting concept for a game, but I think it's very loosely designed. And unlike Papers, Please, which is tightly designed and the seemingly boring gameplay is actually fun, this just sort of ends up being kind of boring.
Yeah. All right. Nick, you mentioned this did not actually come out in January, but Dragon Quest Builders.
Yeah, neat little game. If you're a fan of the Dragon Quest series, this is sort of like if they combined a Minecraft-style game, sandboxy thing with like a village building element and some of the Dragon Quest lore. I never actually finished the game, but the way that it was laid out made me want to play more of it. I think I got about 6 or 7 hours into it, and I was kind of feeling it. Mm-hmm. It's got a little bit of a Metroidvania quality, too, in the way that you sort of unlock areas and skills and blueprints to make new stuff to your town, and there's a lot of customization to it. There's some pretty forgettable NPCs and some kind of fairly standard RPG dialogue. Even some things that I found were just like a little annoying about the way the UI is set up and stuff, but for the most part it was more fun than frustrating. So if you're a fan of that kind of gameplay, I'd say it's probably pretty well recommended. I mean, check out some other reviews and watch some gameplay and stuff, but I don't think you'll have a bad time.
I've only heard good things. I haven't heard much, but the people that I have heard have played it really enjoyed it, so there you go.
Yeah, I don't even know if that one's really indie, but, you know, whatever.
Oh, that's probably... Yeah, that was Square, wasn't it, actually? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, whoops.
Whatever, take 5 seconds.
They always sneak in those.
Yeah,
AAA.
they do.
No, but that's the rule for small AAA games, is if you like them, they're indie, and if you don't like them, you know, it's a big publisher trying to profit gouge.
Right. All right, XCOM 2 going into February. We did talk about this quite a bit during our Game of the Year wrap-up show, so we'll probably stifle the conversation a bit on that one. Austin, did you play a lot of XCOM 2?
Didn't. I actually watched Rob play a fair bit of it. I don't know if that gives me enough experience to talk about
By proxy,
but,
sure, yeah. Have Rob's opinion.
Click in the buttons.
Rob's opinion was, and I trust Rob on this because he's a huge XCOM fan, he said it was really good. You know,
right.
He said it was much better than the first one, and I trust Rob on this.
Yeah,
so
me too.
I'll agree with him.
Sweet. How about Firewatch, a game that we notably ignored last week,
Well,
and a lot of people didn't. But
I want to talk about Firewatch
yes.
because I've been watching these lists come in. Everybody's got Firewatch on it. I can't remember if I went down this exact tangent last week, but even like RedBullSports.com or whatever did their top 10 games of the year as voted on by players, and Firewatch was number 4.
Ooh.
You know, surrounding stuff like Overwatch and Uncharted and stuff like that. I was like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I still feel like, am I missing the hook in Fire? Did we all miss the hook in Firewatch? Like, it's beautiful. The voice acting's amazing. It tells a quiet, understated, like, mature story. And I respect that. But I didn't really enjoy it by the end of it. And as someone who actually has a tendency to enjoy walking simulators, quote unquote, I was kind of bummed out. And I think that the thing that insults me the most, or not, that's a very
the thing that I'm
grandiose
most personally offended by. About
yes,
Firewatch.
the thing that I still, like, I respect the design a lot, but the mistake that they made from my perspective is teasing a much more interesting like sci-fi premise, and then just that's a red herring. What they did, and it took until like, you know, this summer to clarify it for me. It was when I was watching Stranger Things, and I was like, Firewatch did Stranger Things.
Oh no.
But they didn't. They just did like the first 15 minutes of episode 1 where you're kind of unsure what's going on. They didn't continue down that cool like Twilight Zone road. Instead, they veered it back to, you know, domestic issues, as they, you know, that is their right. But it would have been sweet if they had actually gone in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that's not what they want to do, but I think that could have been a better game.
Do you think, well, this is a question for everybody. Do you think we were so put off by the red herring that it just sullied our opinion of the game as a whole?
Well, I would say anybody that's interested in hearing us discuss this, go back and watch our full discussion, because we got way into the story, like super, super deep. I think it's all subjective, obviously. I think we can all take that as truth, right? And when you're listening to all these people have these opinions about what their list for the year is, it's perhaps the main case that they'd make is that they weren't so sullied by the red herrings and the writing didn't put them off. I think that's where I kind of fell as well. I think the majority of us kind of all landed on that same side. That the majority of the problem was just that the writing didn't go where we wished it went.
Mm-hmm.
But I also respect where it did go. It just wasn't as compelling that way.
It also
and the red herrings felt like such an artificial way to make it seem like it has depth.
Right.
Yeah.
It also suffered from quite a few performance issues, from what I remember, so that really hampered it too. But yeah, there we go.
I would have. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. If you just like cut out the second act, I feel like it's a better game with blinders on. I really like. I just can't understand a defense of the whole X-Files part of it, because like they really do tease you with like this awesome mystery, and then just go, oh, you know, don't worry about that. Turns out we were just paranoid. I get it. You know, you're out you're isolated except for, you know, this one other person in the wilderness. I understand that can lead to paranoia and stuff like that, but it just left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. And in a way, it kind of feels like a half measure. Like we want to make an adult story in a video game, but we need to trick you. We need to give you like this carrot and the stick, and then be like, okay, now that you're here, you know, it's about life and loss and commitment, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally hear that. And then I went back and forth so many times on what if there's really just a metaphor that's taking place here and we're not using the right critical lens to look at this story to come away with the proper statement that the artist meant to make. Mm-hmm. And I think there is a case to be made for that, and I can't remember what my case was anymore. That's why you should go back and watch the original time when I made my argument, because I still had it fresh in my mind. Now it's been the better part of a year.
Yeah, all right. So go back and watch the Firewatch episode is basically the synopsis here.
I was very passionate. I had a good time discussing the writing of that game.
Yeah,
And I think we came up with this analog when we were talking about it. But it's like, I don't think that it's a bad game in the same way like the new Homefront was a bad game.
Right, of course.
I think it's just like, it's ambitious and it didn't quite hit the mark. But I'd rather have stuff like that, you know, is like a weird 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 that tried something new, instead of just like, you know, it's like a bad third-person shooter or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could never not respect Firewatch, even if I didn't agree with the ending of it or how they did the writing. I still appreciate that they did that and took that chance.
Yeah. I think I still liked it. I was just disappointed. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Did any of us play Layers of Fear?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Right.
This Neck and Mathis.
I also played the DLC. I've basically done all the things you can do in that game.
Oh, shit. Okay, hit me with it.
Layers of Fear is a journey of a man who is... Let me see if I can remember the plot here. He's in his house. His wife is gone. His child's gone. And he's going crazy because he wants to paint his life's work, masterpiece painting. So this is all looking at sort of how his life is unraveling through snippets of newspapers and contextual clues while you walk around his house. And little by little, things get more psychotropic and insane. And by the end, well, there's, you know, big reveals, of course, because that's how horror games go. And it was another one of those games that was sort of riding on that. This is like a PT sort of realistic style interior with really high resolution textures kind of thing. I don't know why I need to reference PT, but it does get across what I'm trying to put across, which is that it's a largely interior-driven horror game with naturalistic textures that are high resolution. What a stupid genre.
That's PT. No, that's the PT genre, man.
Hey, that Resident Evil's almost out. Don't worry.
I know. And I'm going to call them Resident Evil 7 likes or something.
Yeah, there you go.
So I played through it all. I thought that, oddly enough, the demo and alpha or whatever, like pre-release version of the game was cut in a way that made it more compelling than the final version.
Really?
Which felt watered down and sort of padded out to have more content that was less meaningful. So I was a bit actually let down by that because I thought it was quite good the way it was going in its pacing and its trajectory in the pre-release version. And if they would have just capped it off with like another hour, it would have actually been really good at a shorter length than when they dragged it out an extra 2 or 3 hours and had very little actually going on for all that time.
Yeah.
And then the DLC actually substantially made it even worse, in my opinion. The DLC was actually quite bad.
Wow.
So it was one of those games I thought had some of the most potential, and the team that made it did a really good job, like with the presentation visually. The audio was great. The whole atmosphere was actually really good, and there were some memorable moments in it. It just didn't gel as a complete package, in my opinion. It's still worth playing. It's just don't go in with such high expectations as I think I did, because, and I've said this every single time we talk about this, but there's this moment where you're going into the basement and you hear the piano start playing, and then it goes clunk, and then all the stuff that was starting to float off the ground falls. And that's such an important bit to me because it signifies that they had such nuance in their writing that they were willing to allow the story to go to someplace light, which horror games never do. What that floating was supposed to signify was sort of the grace of him remembering his daughter playing the piano or his wife playing the piano and how beautiful that was and how it was soured by those amelodic notes when she would hit them and all the floating would die. So there was actually like a really cool moment that I don't know if everybody even picked up on, but it was in there and it was really well written. So, you know, props to them, just didn't work out, unfortunately.
Sweet. That was way more impassioned than I expected it to be. Oh, yeah.
Well, I was really into that game. Like before
Yeah.
it came out, I was like, this is going to be the horror game that I've been waiting for a long time, and kind of fell short, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sorry about the drop frames, by the way, Chad. It's just this time of year, apparently, is just, as a nation, we can't maintain good internet, so that's just the expectation now. Stardew
Blame it on-
Valley. Hey, Austin.
Yeah.
How you feel about
I
it?
got you started right here. Fantastic game. I mean, I'm gonna start by saying it's kind of the same thing with The Witness. It's one of those games where if you don't like, farming simulators, you're gonna hate this game. But if you're one of those people that could sit down and like enjoy just a very chill game where there's really no like I need to win in the game, just like I kind of want to enjoy my time here and look around and do nice things. It's the perfect game. It's still technically like not done. I think like the creator still wants to add more to it, and he's doing that. It was a big patch recently too. But it's everything that you can want in like a what's it based off of? Harvest Moon. Yeah, Harvest Moon game. It's everything you could expect and everything you could want, and it's just very chill. That's the best way I can put it. There's nothing about that game that I'm like, you know what, this part kind of sucks. No, every part of it hits the nail on the head. It's just one of those games that not everyone can enjoy, which is fair.
I have one minor issue, and that's that you can't hang out with the cat in a meaningful way.
That's a good
Other
point.
than that, really chill, good game.
Sweet. Yeah, we're not breaking any new ground here, I don't think. Stardew Valley. A-okay.
Wasn't there's like an online co-op mod for that or something?
Yeah, I think multiplayer is coming soon, isn't it?
I think so. I've heard that. Multiplayer to me doesn't really matter too much in a game like that. I mean, you can kind of experience the game with someone else, like just by talking with them and playing the game at the same time locally. But yeah, I mean that could be another way to play the game. I'm looking to try it again sometime soon, so I'm just waiting for more content to be added in.
I bet multiplayer.
I like
would be
that there were different paths that you could focus on, like I'm going to be a miner mostly, or I'm going to like mostly just farm. Like that there's different elements to it, and then you could date different people, kind of changes the game a little too.
That's still a
But I know
one-man
that's
team,
kind of
right?
Harvest Moon.
One guy, it blows my mind.
Ugh,
The
it's nuts.
dude has really, he's gotten rewarded for it now, I think. But
Oh, yeah, sure.
he did good work.
Who played SUPERHOT?
I did.
You did?
Yep.
All right.
Am I the only one?
I think, I really meant
got
to.
the
That one's been on
SUPERHOT.
my short list.
I got
That's-
the super hot item in Gungeon, so I kind of played it.
Good.
It's surprising that I'm the only. I thought that game was actually very hyped.
It's in VR now, too, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard this is one of the games I need to use with my brand new Oculus Touch controller.
Oh, shit!
I have two of them. There's two. It's cool. I actually am really happy about the Oculus Touch, but I don't need to bring that up now.
Break down SUPERHOT for me, though, real quick.
Yeah, it's a first-person shooter with a very minimalistic visual presentation where everything is sort of like derez, detextured polygons. And the premise is things only move when you move. So you can use it to a little bit of a strategic advantage where you can shoot a bullet and then sidestep and watch that bullet as you move go down a trajectory that'll put another enemy in the path of that bullet later. And it's all following the same path every time. It's a linear game in that every time the enemy moves, you're going to see it the same every time you die and respawn. Mm-hmm. So you can actually plan the level out to a T, and which is fantastic for speedrunners if you're into that kind of thing, which I am. Mm-hmm. I played it all the way through. I had a lot of really high hopes for that game because I had played it a long time ago when it was still very early access. This is one of the earlier games I did on Indie Impressions that I was like really hyped to see where this was going to go. And it seemed like it was hinting at a deeper story in the pre-alpha version than actually ended up in the final version. The story was very forgettable. I don't even really hardly remember, like honestly don't remember much of what happened. Mm-hmm. At one point I think you see yourself in VR, like playing the game you're playing, and it tries to break the fourth wall and then you shoot yourself or something. But I didn't really understand what it meant or like what the relevance was to anything. Mechanically, it's fun. As long as you look at it in that perspective, I think that's about as far as you need to. Mm-hmm. Fun weapons to play with. There's like a katana. You can like cut bullets out of the air, which is pretty sweet. And the motion feels good. The presentation's lovely. Just, the story was just kind of forgettable, but, it's a solid-ish game.
Sweet. Okay. No, I actually really want to check this out in VR, because looking back at it, I feel like that would be a really solid VR experience, don't you?
I feel like it has a high potential for motion sickness based on how things stop and start, but if they figured out how to get around it, then sure, seems cool. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to skip a few here. Let's get into March with Ultimate Chicken Horse.
What are you skipping?
I'm skipping, are there, anything beyond SUPERHOT you want to know? Oh, Political Machine. Nah? All right. I am skipping H1Z1. Do you want to talk about H1Z1?
Snowfall DLC?
Nah, probably not. All right. No. Devil Daggers.
I just played that a couple days ago, actually. That was pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
It's like an arena shooter with a really dark vibe to it. Sort of like it looks like a Nine Inch Nails song would look.
Oh, I remember this, actually.
If it was visualized. Yeah, so you play as this dude that's just like a mystical hand shooting daggers, and you can also charge it and shoot like shotgun daggers out, and there's crazy ass demons like spewing skulls everywhere. Basically like a first-person Geometry Wars style game with demons instead. And it's primarily, I think it's just a score attack game, but seems really nice. I would put more time into it, honestly.
I totally forgot about this, actually. Seeing it again now, though, is certainly spiking my memory. It looked like a ton of fun just to play. Like, it was very fast-paced, kind of a Doom-esque look to it. There was that. I'm going by Blitzbreaker. I don't actually know what that is.
Blitzbreaker, it's a very, very small platform puzzle game. But like it was pretty good, but it was like pretty good for $3.
Okay.
It's not really the kind of thing you play for like an afternoon and then go, it was fun, but it doesn't really, make it into discussions like this. Which is not to say that it's bad, it's just sort of small.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that brings us, I believe, to Ultimate Chicken Horse, unless we want to talk about Hitman again, which you can real quick say it's Hitman and it's good.
Ryan really likes Hitman.
Yeah, Hitman is like genuinely amazing. It
is awesome. I'm going to go back to it. I am. I'm going to play a couple more of those missions because it was great. Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Great game.
Mm-hmm. We got 3 of the 4 here, don't we?
Yeah, we just ended our series on that.
Post-mortem.
Largely functional online gameplay. A really novel concept. I don't know. I've never heard of anything even close to that. But it's the kind of game, I think it's indicative of really smart design because you're like, why didn't anybody else think of that? You just got 2 phases. You got like a build phase and a run phase. But I could see that being applied to things like, Infinite Runners or something like that, or other, platformers of the same variety, but, with some kind of different focus. So I think that game is really good. If anything, I'm a little disappointed we slept on it for so long. Like, it came out in March, and we didn't start playing it until, like, the end of September or something. But it should tell you something. As soon as
online came out? Online wasn't in it until recently.
I thought that online.
Oh, it didn't work
worked.
because the VOI, it had the IP at the top. That's why.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That
right.
silly ass
that.
decision.
I
we
forgot
waited
about
until
that.
they got rid of the IP, and then we played it.
Yeah, and then we did 7 straight weeks of episodes like without missing a day. So that should give you some indication of that game being good.
Yep.
Yep. I think just the simple addition of like glue in that game, honey,
Yeah.
it changes everything. Like the ability to combine objects together just changes every level and makes it to where there's really you never have the same level twice.
The first time we streamed it on the NLSS, I remember chat was like, "Why aren't they using the glue?" And we were like, "Shut up, we get the idea, whatever. Okay, you can use the glue, whatever. We'll figure it out later." The glue actually changes the game.
Yeah, the glue and like black holes and teleporters changing physics were the big linchpins for that for sure. But again, like I feel like what you get in that game is what you put in. Like we hear from people all the time that play online, like solo queue online, and they're like, it sucks because people just like blow up everything, or they'll lock you in the spawn until like they built the level already, and like that sounds terrible. But if you play it in kind of like a cooperative adversarial way where you're like, the goal is to have fun, but like I would like to win while we're having fun. That's what sells the game, as opposed to just like, you know, fuck you, I'm gonna box you in and just finish the level.
Right.
In some ways, it's actually it's a pro and a con at the same time, because the game almost doesn't work independent of you having some friends to play with.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like adversarially, I think it falls apart.
Yeah.
And it took us a little while to establish a language between each other that we could all have fun playing it a certain way. So I wonder if that's actually it's a pro or a shortcoming.
I mean, for us, it's a pro, but like
Yeah.
for the game itself, it might be a shortcoming. But I think it really shines if you got the right community to play with. But
Sure.
if you have to, I feel bad if we got you to buy it and then you solo queued for like 2 hours and people just blew up all your stuff. But you know, hold on to it. You will find the right people, hopefully.
Alrighty. Let's go to Hyper Light Drifter.
Ooh.
Did you check that out?
Everyone
Austin?
played it, right? I did play it. I was rather disappointed by the game overall. I think it's probably one of the most artistically pleasing games of the year. It's one of the best sound design games of the year. But the combat system and the general length of the game,
How long was it?
it wasn't. I think I can check. You know what? Let me look at my time played. I think I had maybe 4 hours total.
5 or 6 hours? No, even less.
Oh.
Hyper Light Drifter, 5 hours exactly.
Okay.
And I got to the end and I was like, that's it. I was really surprised it ended as quickly as it. Like I said, if we want to rate this game on an artistic level, one of the best, if not the best games of the year. But the game itself is very, I think, pointlessly frustrating. I think it kind of takes joy in being hard for no reason in some places. And there's like a mechanic that, you know, you have to keep retrying over and over every time you fail a fight. And sometimes the checkpoint system doesn't work very well and puts you way farther back than it should. But I mean, I think I give the game like a 5 out of 10 overall.
Oh,
it's all right.
Wow.
Nah, the combat system really killed it for me.
I was
I
waiting
liked it a
for
lot more than Austin did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I agree with most of your points, but I don't find that the detracting points were as serious to me as they seem to be for you. I think at the core of it, it has a really cool fighting system. It was largely just hampered by the delay in the controls, which I think was exacerbated by the 30 frames per second issue that they, you know, went back and addressed. Granted, I didn't go back and play it since it became 60 FPS, but I have to believe it's got to help a lot. And maybe I'm also biased in that I seem to put a disproportionate weight on artistic elements. The game is just so beautiful that I'm like willing to overlook more things. It also has like my personal favorite color scheme. Those vivid freaking coral reds and like crazy neon blacklight reactive colors, that's my thing. And that game it nailed that.
I think the sound design is actually even better than the art. Like some of the like there was this, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a point where you walk up a mountain and you see like a huge statue in the distance, and then the music just like the bass just explodes as you go over the hill. It doesn't mean anything. There's no story happening there, but just that combination of like seeing the background and hearing the music crescendo is just, it really like gets you going. It's really good.
It's good pacing. Yeah. You know, there was a secret language in that game, right? Those tablets, you were supposed to uncover them, and sort of like Fez, you could actually translate them to a real language, which told the actual story of the game that you were playing and never knew the story to unless you got into the like ARG levels of decoding.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I think that's cool. A little overkill, but cool.
For sure. Ryan, did you play it? No.
I did not.
I played it and I kept waiting for it to grab me, you know, and it never really did. I was so sure it was going to, too. Looking at it, playing it at PAX, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm totally into this. And then I played like an hour or two. Let me actually see how much time I did put into it. I don't want to be dishonest here, but yeah, I put 90 minutes into it. So yeah, I gave it a shot. I never really felt it grab me. I think the lack of any really spoken or written dialogue almost hurt it a bit too much, in my opinion. Like I can appreciate the cryptic nature, but it is a little difficult to get invested when I really don't know anything apart from what I've been able to interpret myself.
I gotta call you out, though, because your favorite game of all time is Shadow of the Colossus, and they borrowed a very similar nomenclature for how they do the language.
They actually say, like, there's subtitles that tell you words that convey information, though, at least.
Okay.
Right?
I thought it was largely, again, though, it was one of those situations where they describe everything through context instead of overtly telling you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm misremembering Shadow of the Colossus, then.
Either way.
Never mind.
Okay. I don't know about the comparison. I couldn't ever really get pulled into Hyperlight as much as I expected to. Did anybody play The Guest?
Yes, that was my game. That's why it ended up on the list.
Oh, okay.
Really, really good escape the room game. First person mystery, kind of dark and like conspiratorial, if that's a thing for a genre to be. So you start out in this room, as is often the case in escape the room things, and you're looking for clues. You're looking for where am I? What did I do? Why am I trying to escape this place? And what are my options? And little by little, you uncover what seems to be something a bit more sinister going on. You get into a few other rooms and realize you're trapped in a larger complex and so on and so forth. And then things start to get a little bit like portally and weird toward the end, in a way that's very compelling. Granted, I don't think the ending payoff was necessarily the best, but the journey was worth the time. I think the game was about 3 or 4 hours long and very atmospheric, well put together. I think it's like literally $3.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that. If you haven't heard of it or seen it, at least go take a look at it. You might find yourself involved and invested in it quickly.
Here's a Steam review that you'll have to translate for me, Nick.
Yeah.
Home Alone. Time to game and chill. Starts game, unlocks door. Pitch black. Minimizes game. Checks game's tag. No horror tag. Goes back in game. Opens drawer. Finds Holy Bible. Quits game. The end. What does this mean?
That's a very fractured description of a thing that happens in that game.
Sounds like
so there's like
or something.
a dark room outside of the room you start in, and you can turn on the lights.
Oh,
okay.
Well, he just missed that, I guess.
Yeah, there's lights. You can turn them on. I don't think they all turn on in like immediately, but you can do it.
All right. Sweet.
He gave it a thumbs up, and he has 2.2 hours in the game. But
All right.
What, he took 2 hours. He didn't get the lights on. It's literally the second room. All right, that's pretty funny though.
How about Deadbolt? Was that another Nick game?
No,
I played that.
Oh, you played
Yeah, that was a Ryan
All
game.
Hit me up with Deadbolt.
That's the game that is like a side-scrolling Hotline Miami, notable because the guys who made Risk of Rain, it's their second game.
Okay.
So it's like, it's a little similar to Deadbolt, at least in terms of its combat, or not Deadbolt, Gunpoint, in terms of its combat as well. But it's really like the kind of game where you play in these Hotline Miami sort of bursts, like 30 seconds, get in, kill everybody, get out. And you sort of plan like where you're going to go, and there's like vents that you can take up to navigate through buildings. But it was basically like not a hero, but better.
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. So I thought Deadbolt was pretty good, but it wasn't good enough to kind of keep me invested for the whole time. But it was otherwise like pretty solid, and it had a cool sort of story going on. It's very, very Hotline Miami-esque, except occultish instead of being like influenced by, I don't know, psychedelics or whatever you would say Hotline Miami, like violent media, nihilism, and LSD. Like Deadbolt is more like, you know, somebody like H.R. Geiger came on a Ouija board or something like that, and then the spawn of that was what the story was for that.
Did you have that one ready?
But
I fucking love these descriptions.
But it was pretty good. It's sort of been. I haven't heard anything about Deadbolt. Like, I had to think about what Deadbolt was when you said it, but it was good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised it hasn't factored in more in like year-end conversations.
I totally forgot about it. Yeah. Well, there you go.
I wish you wrote for Polygon so that could be a pull quote from an article. It's like H.R. Geiger came on a Ouija board.
It was also like really hard. Like by like the end of the first act, I was like, this is almost too hard for me. But
Cool. Shellshock Live going into early access this year. Rob
Fun
liked that
game.
one quite a bit, didn't he?
Me, Nick, and Rob, Brian.
Yeah.
me, Nick, and Rob had a lot of fun. We actually played like many hours of it off stream. Like
It became one of our sort of like Overwatch-ish rituals, like our nightly game for a little while.
Yeah.
I got like 100 hours in that game.
Streams of just like dicking around in Shellshock and fighting viewers and stuff.
Yep.
96 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really enjoyed that game for as simple as it is. I know it's not balanced very well, but I still enjoyed it anyway.
It's
it knows
balanced,
exactly what it
well
is.
when you're all playing at the same level, right?
Yeah, when you all started at the
Yeah.
same time and Ryan was away when
Even
we
then
started.
it isn't,
Set the story.
honestly. But
Even then, it isn't.
it's just fun. Like you go that, you know, that going in, you're just like, I don't care. You know, like
Right on.
game has like hundreds of weapons, and just discovering them and using them for the first time is enough to like keep you going and keep you leveling up.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's like just minor enough changes to the gameplay when you get new weapons that it's like it's enough to keep you hooked for another few hours every time, and then the hours just pile on. You're leveling up and you're getting like more of that huge table of boxes uncovered. You're like, oh, I got to get all the weapons. Drags you in.
if they just
Here we go.
If they just made it balanced, it would be really good. I'm still like
But
8
they
months.
did, and you still didn't like it.
No, they didn't.
They
no.
added a mode that's balanced for everybody.
We never found this mode. The mode,
No, we
like, it
played it.
balances
We
everyone's
played
stats,
it on the NLSS with the balanced mode.
but the weapons are different. It's not
No,
balanced.
the weapons were the same.
They
You're
were all
forgetting.
the same for
We played it
everybody.
like
That's
a
Got
month
you on
ago.
every
balancing
condition, man. Just let it go.
No. Somebody pull up the footage.
Nick's right.
There's definitely like either somebody's starting with 200 armor or somebody's starting with nuclear weapons and being like,
All
well,
right.
technically the first weapon you get is the best. But like it just is it still baffles me 8 months later that they would be like, you know, what would be like a really good way to make Counter-Strike would be like if, you know, the more you, let's say you had 500 hours and somebody else had like 2 hours, you had a rocket launcher and they had like a slingshot. That's just, that decision baffles me. And I understand that one, you're like, well, you should be rewarded for playing. I get it in some ways. The weapons were different. The armor and health were the same.
Weapons were the same, dog. I'm certain of it, because I remember we were all like, this mode sucks because we don't have any of our
I'm willing
weapons.
to concede, though, that you just don't like it. That's okay. I don't we have
like
to
it.
agree on the same
I
reality.
don't like it
is
very
all.
much. If that makes you feel better, I'm not a
I
huge fan.
appreciate that, Bear.
Yeah.
It's a good game with just a really, really, in my opinion, awful design decision to basically let you ball out of control if you've played the game so much. Like, it means that you have to self-police, and if you want to play with your friends, like, everybody has to be around the same level.
Or you could use the balance mode that they added.
Right.
Yeah, Ryan likes balanced games like Hearthstone, right? Where you have to.
All right, real
I
slowly-
mean,
quick.
Hearthstone has RNG, but it is balanced.
Roasted.
I'm going to take a quick
every-
break from the action here to take a nice big swig of
Wait, you gotta say the name of the thing you're
He
drinking.
got his shipment.
got
Madrina's
it.
coffee. That looks delicious. Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is brought to you by the magnificent Flying Madrina's Coffee, and available in many delicious flavors, dark roast included, along with, what do you got over there? You got a mocha?
Vanilla.
Oh, vanilla. Oh, delicious. Cold brew with milk. Austin, you are left out to dry. They're sending you some, aren't they? Shlomo emailed you or something,
I got
didn't
some
he?
in the fridge still.
Nice.
I got a couple more
All
left.
right, well, there
I
you
should
go.
have
You got you
grabbed
hooked
it.
up. This podcast is
I'm not
sponsored.
drinking mine right now because it's like 8 p.m.
That's fair. I had to drink
when
mine
we-
to stay awake.
When we get back to afternoon roundtables, I'm all in.
Hell yeah. This podcast is brought to you by Madrina's. You can go to madrinascoffee.com/roundtable and enter a giveaway to win free coffee for a year. And if you just want to buy some coffee, you have every right to do so. And you should go to madrinascoffee.com/shop and use the code roundtablecoffee and save 40% on any purchase on the online store. Here's something else, by the way. What I love about our relationship with Madrina's is that I can just talk to them about issues you guys have. Like, hey, the shipping's really high for a lot of people. Can we do something about that? And they're like, yeah, that sucks. Let's fix it. So they're doing that. In 2017, they're working on international shipping options for those of you overseas who have been looking to participate in the Madrina's Boys action, along with, that was poorly phrased. I should have chosen better words for that.
It's just a meme.
But yeah, that's coming soon in 2017, and coming soon as well are flat rate shipping options for those of you on the West and East Coast who have been suffering from those high costs. They're looking out for you too. So yeah, there you go. MadrinasCoffee.com/roundtable. Enter to win free coffee for a year. Let's get back into it with okay. So we're halfway through March and it's an hour in, so we're on a good pace so far. Let's go with Space Food Truck.
Space Food Truck is good, but it doesn't fit in the NLSS time slot. One game of that takes like 3 hours to actually complete. So
okay. Mm-hmm.
I think it's really cool. But it's the kind of game that I don't know. If we still did roundtable plays, we could do like a 3-hour stream of Space Food Truck and it would be fine.
Yeah,
but it doesn't fit within an hour, and as a result, public opinion turned on it, and that was the last time we played Space Food Truck.
All right.
It was cool, though, because we all had our own role, and we were all kind of collaborating toward a greater good. And I didn't realize quite how much of the game was generated on the fly. So every time we play, we're going to get a fairly different trip through the galaxy, as it were. I can't remember the roles anymore, but I enjoyed the one I played, whichever one it was.
Mm-hmm. No Space Food Truck for you, Austin?
No, I didn't get a chance to play it.
Right on.
In a weird way, like in Astroneer, we've sort of self-organized into the way we were playing Space Food Truck. You know, we got like somebody just hitting the research button on the avocados, and then Rob is planning where to place all the modules, and Nick's venturing out in search of rare minerals, and Bear's driving the truck.
Yep. Thanks for pretending I had a role in all of this.
And making an oxygen pit.
Yeah. Hey, I organized our quarry too. That's just getting into spoilers now.
That is, he did organize the quarry.
Mm-hmm. Momodora, Nick.
Really, really pretty and well done short-form Metroidvania game. It's like a abridged kind of experience. It's maybe like 4 or 5 hours long. Has you traveling through a large variety of different biomes with a story that's actually somewhat meaningful. A lot of these games just give you sort of a pretense veneer sort of thing to why you're going from place to place. This one, there's actually a couple of moments in it that story matters a bit. I'd say just in general, if you're a fan of Metroidvanias, there's not a lot about this that you wouldn't like. It's smooth action. There's enough to see and do that'll keep you entertained for a while. I think I played it in like one sitting, maybe two.
I think you did, yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
You can turn into a cat, which is pretty sweet. There's not a lot of games you get to do that in. And there's some pretty memorable boss fights, like the one where you punch boobs for a while. I'm not really sure still why that's in the game, actually.
I should probably swap out the trailer in case they made that in there.
Yeah, you just like beat up this lady's boobs.
Well, there you go.
It's just a weird moment.
That's a big selling point. Only $7 to beat up some lady's boobs if you're into that. Momodora. How about Blockhood? Ryan, you played that, right?
Blockhood is really, really good, but hard to sell. It has, like, if we got super... what's the opposite of reductive?
Inductive?
Like
That's-
incredibly like needlessly arbitrarily
Oh, I didn't know.
specific in our like awards. This would be like a candidate, I think, for like best UI or best user experience, because like the display of the game and the way that it presents information is beautiful. The way that the information feeds back into the gameplay is amazing. It's basically a city builder, but instead of building like a broad city, well, there was an accidental reference to the Comedy Central television program had the same name. Instead of building a large city, you build upwards. So you're basically building like a housing complex that grows in terms of like, you know, the number of population, you know, the population versus family, the population of, you know, bachelors or bachelorettes, et cetera, et cetera. They also produce power and garbage, and you can. The cool thing about it is that every system feeds back into another system. So you get population. Population requires consumer, like a place to buy things. But both of those things, people and stores, produce like dirty water. You can make like water purifiers. Water purifiers give water, but they require power. Some of the power will generate other waste products, and you can use those waste products to convert them into other things. Basically, you get like one big cycle that just like goes around. That's the goal, at least. It's really cool, but sort of after a couple of hours of it, I was like, I don't really want to. I can't see myself spiraling out of control like in Planet Coaster. Like, I had no ambition in that game except to keep a balance, which is great, but it goes against my, you know, manifest destiny desire to conquer all lands that I can see with my two eyes and put roller coasters on top of them. So Planet Coaster is like a more like viscerally enjoyable time, but Blockhood not only has a good message, but is a good game in its own right.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
Cool.
Adrift. That's the astronaut one, right?
Space Firewatch, yeah.
Yeah. You both played that, right?
I played it for like 10 minutes and it made me feel really sick.
Oh, okay. Ryan.
So
I-
I didn't really play it,
All right.
basically.
All right.
I played like an hour, and it's like exactly the same as my feelings of Firewatch, but worse. Like,
Oh.
not to, again, I don't want to be rude because I think that this game has a lot going for it. In VR, like everybody was like, in VR it looks amazing. And I think
Okay.
that it does. It has a really good sense of scale and good environments, but it's just the gameplay loop is so boring.
Mm-hmm.
At least in Firewatch, there's like the dialogue between, I forget the names of the characters, but the dialogue
Delilah
between
and Henry.
Yep.
There you go. Between Delilah and Henry, the dialogue was awesome. But in Adrift, it's that, but you just are pulling audio log after audio log after email, piecing the story together yourself. And then the conceit is like you use your oxygen to get around because you're in like a destroyed space station and you have to navigate around and eventually escape.
Yeah.
So you use your oxygen to get around, but if you run out of oxygen, you die. So you fly around like picking up all these oxygen canisters from the air, and it just feels like a super arbitrary, like we have to throw some gameplay mechanic into this game to make it a game, and it's just not fun, like to be honest with you. So I was rolling my eyes at the audio logs and the emails. Like I just can't at this point in my life enjoy that. Yeah, like
Are you shut down entirely on emails and games now? Because
I think so, yeah. Like, if the only way that you're telling a story is through computer terminals that you find, you could put the best piece of fiction ever onto those emails, and I just do not care. It just doesn't matter. But I really think it's just like a very pretty walking simulator that was made with VR in mind. The trailers sell this huge promise. You're like, oh my god, you know, trying to survive a dilapidated space station, or like maybe the space station's gone rogue. You're thinking of Sunshine. You're thinking of 2001: A Space Odyssey, but really it's just like oxygen tank, oxygen tank, oxygen tank. Get me off of this place. I don't know. I think I'd like to see my kids again. You're, okay, whatever.
Might there be a cheat code that lets you not have to do the gameplay part and can experience the environments anyway?
But you know what you experience at that point is endless email logs.
Reading.
Until you get to the end. Yeah, exactly. So,
So just read your emails. That's a better way to play.
yeah, more
clean out
productive.
my inbox
Yeah.
instead.
It's
Less
just
motion
like
sickness.
the mechanic is not good, in my opinion.
All right. For SHOWDOWN, you liked that quite a bit, didn't you, Nick?
I did. I love that game.
Mhm.
That was like the game that I loved the most and wanted to play more of, and then just never found time to.
Mhm.
I played it as well, actually.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like a card-based arena shooter. Austin, take a stab at it. I'm gonna just keep throwing out genre names.
It felt really. I don't know if I could really like put a specific genre on it, but the
covers a
basic
lot of
gameplay
bases.
loop. The basic gameplay loop is like a top-down. It was like a shooter, right? I can't remember now, but like
Yeah, like a twin-stick shooter, but with
Yeah.
cards overlaying like
Mhm.
the abilities you get each round.
And I remember when I first played the game, I was like, this card mechanic is probably the dumbest thing ever. But then I found myself getting relatively invested into this card thing where I was like, I didn't think this was going to be able to work. But when you're playing the game, there are cards that are good. You can build a good deck, and you want to, as in Hearthstone, you kind of want to curve out on your mana and, you know, plan a deck that can carry you through to the end. And I think the main issue with the game is it looks exactly like a game that no one wants to play.
It looks
So,
like a MOBA.
It looks like a MOBA. It looks like a shitty MOBA. I don't mean
The
that sounds
name
bad. It's what it
itself
looks
is like, oh, what?
Exactly. Nothing about this game looks appealing, but when you actually play it, you're like, wait, this is actually fun. I'm having a good
Mechanically
time.
very strong. The campaigns are extremely long, though, which in some ways is a positive because it means you get very invested in your character. But when you break down what's going on, you're actually dealing with like 40 of the same levels over and over again with the same arc to like, here's your, my lights are going out. You see this shit?
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And so you're working on building up your deck, becoming awesome and powerful, and then you finish like the 10 rounds, and then you're back to square one again, starting over another set of 10 rounds in the same campaign. So it's like it's a lot of starting and stopping, and you don't feel like there's this meta accomplishment of you building towards something as much. And if you fail on the boss, you've failed the entire hour plus of that campaign, which I guess is not unlike an Isaac run, but for some reason it hurts more in Force Showdown.
There were only like
Anyway.
3 campaigns too, right?
They think they might have added a DLC that was like a 4th one. It sounds like there's not much content, but it'll keep you going for like 10 hours at least.
I think if the game wanted to be truly like solid, I think it would need like double the amount of campaigns that it had. Because I remember when I was playing, I think there was only like 2, but I was playing before the game came out, so I think they added another one.
Yeah, I actually, despite what it sounded like I was just doing, I actually really liked it. So don't get me wrong. I think despite those shortcomings, it's still worth playing, and it'll probably grow on you faster than you would expect. It's just whether or not you'll stick around for the long tail that is questionable.
Sweet. Ryan, you played Flamebreak, right? That was earlier in the
Yeah,
year?
okay.
I don't even
Now
remember
that
what it is.
it took me a brief moment. Flamebreak is like a MOBA style roguelite. If I remember, just let me make sure that that's correct.
Sure.
Which is another one of those games. Yeah, this is definitely what it was. So it's like a roguelite action RPG that you play as if it's a MOBA, and it looks like extremely game makery to the extent where you've got to be like, it's kind of like don't judge a book by its cover, like Austin was saying about Force Showdown. Like I don't think it looks very visually impressive, but the actual gameplay mechanics and the way that you build your roguelite character out super quickly and the runs are really, really fast is a novel concept, and I thought it was good enough. And honestly, like, the reviews are extremely positive. I'm kind of surprised that this didn't generate maybe as much of a community around it as other games. Like, I guess it's not. Yeah, roguelite's got to be like really fucking good to generate a community of people who play for like hundreds of hours, I guess. But that game is an underrated gem as far as I'm concerned, and nobody wants to give it the time of day because it kind of looks like an iPhone game.
It's a death sentence, those kinds of visuals, I think, these days.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of a Wizard's Lizard, the way that game looked too. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Like, this is just one of those cases where the game developers made like a great game, but like it would have been amazing if they could have just had like somebody. I mean, maybe this is presumptuous. But I was gonna say if someone just came in and gave them honest feedback, that's like, this looks like a crappy mobile game, and they're like, that would be really painful feedback because you got the art isn't necessarily bad. It's just the game kind of looks cheaply thrown together, I guess. It doesn't have that same kind of like unified art style like Gungeon or Isaac does, or Nuclear Throne, even for that matter. And that really, like, you look at this and it's kind of got the same problem as what was that Viking game that we played, Nick? Not Viking Squad. No, Viking Squad looks great, but there's one Rampage Knights that looks sort of a little 50-50.
Yeah, it's a little janky. The animations kind of feel like marionette style, like kind of like keyframes in Flash, where they're a little disjointed.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're going for, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not at the level of like artistic criticism where I can be like, this is why it looks like garbage, but I think it just looks cheap and like really flat. Despite the fact that it's like top down, it looks like there's no depth whatsoever. So, which is why I kind of like it looks game makery, to be honest. But it's really good, and it's one of those situations where I think it's just a little bit like that one thing. It turns so many people off, but once you get in, you're like, this is pretty good.
I'm going to go past Bunker Punks, because I feel like... Well, no, if you want to note on it real quick, because I think, Ryan, you were the only one to play that too, right?
It's roguelite Doom, basically. It's pretty okay.
Okay.
I think it's still in early access, though.
There were so many games about bunkers that came out in the same amount of time, I couldn't separate which one was which. I don't mean that to be a dick to the people that made the bunker games, just like I was inundated by them.
All right, well, hey, Austin, you want to talk about Enter the Gungeon?
I would love to talk about Enter the Gungeon.
Please do.
You even played that?
I don't know. I played a little bit of it, just a little bit. Enter the Gungeon, to me, to kind of tag it, is bringing roguelikes back to the glory of the Isaac days. Like we had all of these very average roguelikes for a long time in between Gungeon and Isaac, and Gungeon came and it was like, you know what? Let's go back to Bear. What did you do?
Sorry, keep talking.
Madrina's his freaking camera off his monitor.
No, I think Gungeon really brought back the quality, like very replayable roguelike where you can actually put hundreds of hours in. I've done like 600 hours in the game now. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. But I think what it does best is it has just a solid, like, I don't want to say combat system, but solid gunplay, which basically all the items that you can get, all the weapons you can get, all the things you can do in the game, all perfectly wrap around this very solid, smooth gunplay system that they have.
I would like to add that I believe the game, its most redeeming and unifying feature is the dodge roll mechanic.
It's definitely like that I think distanced itself from just Isaac in a way, is the fact that you can dodge roll and the whole fact of the gunplay stuff. But yeah, the dodge roll mechanic is amazing. But a good thing about the game is that while we're talking about it, the supply drop beta just came out. The update's supposed to come out next month, and it's solid. It's free. There's no cost at all, and it's not just a tiny little like, oh, they added like 20 guns, a bunch of items, a bunch of new rooms, new enemies. They added like 2 new bosses, an entire new mode, which is amazing. It's like a third of an expansion almost, and it's free. So that's definitely will put even more hours into the game for me. But definitely my number 2 game of the year, I think, next to The Witness.
I feel like Enter the Gungeon is actually mechanically better than Isaac. However, it lacks that like easy, accessible replayability that Isaac has. Runs slightly longer and much samier. You tend to like funnel towards the same sort of upgrades and the same sort of guns. And also, I wish that more ammo dropped, because that is really annoying that you're kind of incentivized to spend like the first 3 floors only using your sidearm and then start like getting better guns after that.
You got to get on the ammo management game. I'm telling you, man, it's there. Also, apparently, I didn't know this until rather late, but you got to get cursed. The more cursed you have, the more drops you get, the more ammo.
Really? Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah. But like, it's really hard to go back to Isaac if you've played like a lot of Gungeon, then to go back and like a bullet comes for you and you're like, I have to get out of the way of that. Like, I don't have to just press a single button and then I'm safe. You actually have to like move. Like positioning is a little bit more important, I guess. But I really think that I hope that eventually, I think Gungeon can get to that point. I think Gungeon can get to the point where it has Isaac replayability for a wider group of people, but it's going to require the expansion adding, I mean, synergies for sure, and then also consumable drops. I think, and they should make it easier, in my opinion.
I think on a base level, it's a little bit easier now. They added a new key mechanic that you can easier to get keys, and I think overall the game they tweaked the boss armor a bit, so now bosses don't, like go and take 1 damage from like a rocket anymore, which is nice. So I think overall the game's slightly easier, but it is still significantly more difficult than Isaac. So
the consequences of taking damage in Gungeon are so much more serious than Isaac. Like, it's almost like every round or every floor you're on, you're worried about the devil deal the whole time. Like, that, it's kind of the analog to it. Like, get hit once, you've kind of thrown the curve of your run. And it was a little more hardcore than I expected it to be. And granted, I should have put more time into it, and I still like the game a lot. But I needed to really invest more, like, focus into it. And there were too many other options, so I diluted my world. I still hold out hope, though, that I will get into Gungeon on maybe not Austin's level, but, more like Ryan's level, I think.
Yeah. We've talked about Gungeon pretty extensively, so I'm going to put a hard stop there because I know we could go on about it for a while. Let's go to Banner Saga 2, and I'll talk about that real quick. I was paid to play Banner Saga 2, by the way, so just got to get that out there real quick. I played a little bit of the first one as well. Banner Saga 2 is great. It's probably better than the first one. It's just fucking gorgeous. The art for Banner Saga is just phenomenal. It's unbelievably good. The story's great. It's interesting. It draws you in. Characters are great. The gameplay itself is, it's not really its strongest point in my opinion, but it's got a good balance to it. There's this it's a grid system. You've got your guys that you're controlling, and I think it's turn-based, right? It's entirely turn-based. I'm pretty sure. I feel like there might have been.
You played it. You tell me, buddy.
I thought you did. I thought you played Banner Saga 2 as well, but
I played the first one.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's entirely turn-based. Yeah, but there's a good complexity to it. Like the characters have a decent variation of moves. There's not a ton, but I think I feel like most people play the Banner Saga for the story. And it's terrific. So, kudos there. Let's go to... What's the Collider 2? Nick, was that another Nick game?
Yeah, that's another Nick game.
That's another Nick game? Okay, what's Collider 2?
Collider is the game where you fly through tunnels really, really fast and try not to hit into walls.
Oh, shit, okay.
Oh, that looked really fun. I remember watching you play
I got so addicted to that.
Really?
I randomly opened it up on a stream one day, and I was like, all right, fly through tunnels. I'm down. Let's do it. And I flew through so many tunnels, man. I gotta tell you, I got more into that than I thought was possible.
Really? Shit.
And it gave me such an adrenaline rush every single time I played it.
Man.
So if you're looking for something to give you an adrenaline rush and has VR capability, I wasn't playing it VR, but you can. Get Collider 2. It's like really fun.
Okay. I
Apparently,
had no idea this existed.
In Collider 2, you control the ship using your head. If you play in
That's
VR.
one of the control options. Yes, it's one of them.
Jesus.
I did try it in VR, and it's pretty sickening. Like, just stick with a controller and a monitor, probably.
Oh, that sounds so awful. Why would you ever do that? Not as a design choice, but like, why as a person would you ever choose to control it that way? All right. Let's see. Getting into there's a couple VR games here. I didn't play Job Simulator. Did you check out Job Simulator, Ryan, on the Vive? No.
That's a Mathis.
And then,
I've heard it's fantastic. I actually am probably going to buy that like tonight for now that I've got the touch controller.
And Fantastic Contraption. I don't think any of us played either, right?
I played that.
That's what Ryan played.
Yeah, I played that, but it was like last August. I haven't played the real version. Basically, we're waiting for like 1,000 things to fall into place. I don't like plugging the Vive into Kate's computer and taking over her computer to play the Vive stuff. Mine's too far away from the living room space where we can play it. But both of our new computers are arriving very soon, so one of those computers is going to become a living room media center / HTC Vive compatible device, and then I will play VR stuff on the regular.
Sorry, I just realized we're dropping every single frame right now. This is amazing. We are broadcasting still images over the internet. Oh my god.
I mean, it's a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yay, welcome to my internet.
Yeah, hopefully you can still hear us.
Persevere and watch the VOD.
Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, that's the advice. We are into May. Skipping past a few of these AAA releases here, getting into Stellaris. I think that probably is just going to be Ryan. No? Oh, you didn't play that either. That was just Mathis.
We need a Rob for that one.
No,
That's
Mathis
a
was
Robin
too.
Mathis.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's a bummer. I played 15 minutes of Stellaris, but I'm not going to talk any Stellaris because I have no idea what's going on in that game. Salt and Sanctuary. That was a Mathis, I know. I don't know if any of us played it.
I never got around to it. It's 2D Dark Souls.
Mhm.
That's what I knew about it. Like, very much wore that on its sleeve,
Yep.
which was primarily why I wanted to play it, but I just didn't get around to it. Heard good things.
Okay. TASTEE. Lethal Tactics. That was... It's not great. I played that. Was I the only one? Yeah.
Were you? Wait a minute. Were you Madrinas to play that?
I was Madrinas.
Yeah, I think you were Madrinas. That was a main menu thing, I think.
I don't like that as a verb.
Madrinas to play that.
I was, full disclosure, I was Madrinas to play TASTEE Lethal Tactics. Fun game though. Pretty good time. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it actually. It's just a tactical little over-the-top shooter. It sort of reminds me of Hard West actually, which was another very similar game that came out last year. Not gameplay-wise, but sort of just like thematically and the way everything looks really. But I had a good time with it. It's pretty deep, actually. There's a fair amount of mechanics involved with TASTEE Lethal Tactics. So you can like take cover, you can plan a shot, you can move, and you can like path out. I think point A to point B and what you want to do along the way. So it's sort of like the anticipate your enemy's actions and then plan accordingly kind of gameplay. So I think it works fairly well. The multiplayer was really fun. I played a bit with Tenchi actually, and we had a good time. So it's good. I like it.
Yeah, I liked it too. Actually, I think that's one of those games I recorded a Let's Look At for and never released.
Ooh, the Vault.
It happens on occasion where I just go like, am I going to come out with it today? Nah. Tomorrow? Nah. And then it's like 2 weeks later and I'm like, nobody cares.
Just unprivate it now. Nobody will know it ever came out.
Yeah, there you go.
That's true. Yeah, it'll be
Be
in
buried
the YouTube
2 months ago.
burial chamber. As happens to any video that you upload and then like 3 months later publish.
Yep. You know what I want to do one day is just like upload and schedule a video for like 5 years from now and see if I remember that it exists. It's kind of like a time capsule for
fun.
myself.
Yeah.
That'd be neat. YouTuber's Life. I don't think any of us played this.
Oh, I played that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did you have a life-changing experience with it?
It's pretty like not very good.
I
but
kind of expected that.
It exists on the gimmick of like I mean I don't really know. It's like it's game dev tycoon, but instead of like spending your time banging on a keyboard, your dude's spending his time talking into a microphone. And it was like I'm not sure if it was early access or what, but it was like really poorly made at the time when it came out. Like it was like models would walk into each other and get stuck, or like your clone would walk into your room while you're already in there or something like that. It was like really, really light strategy elements. And also like some of the stuff was just, I don't know, exceptionally boring. Like you make up enough money to go to PAX, and then you go to PAX and you like walk up to people and they're like, I won't talk to you unless you have this many subscribers. You like walk up to somebody else and they're like, I'm a fashion YouTuber. Okay, cool. Like, I get what they're going for, and in the end, like, I don't think it matters what the simulation is. Like, a cam studio game like Honeycam Studio could be great. Planet Coaster could be great. Any kind of simulation could be good if the mechanics are there, but the mechanics were like not there in this. So it was really just like, if for some reason the idea of pretending to be a YouTuber is exciting to you, then it was kind of okay. But apart from that, it exists exclusively on the strength of its idea.
It's like real PAX, though. Like, at a certain subscriber level, you can only take photos of Markiplier.
I remember the first time I met Ryan, he didn't even want to talk to me. I didn't have enough subs. It was sad.
That's very true.
Yeah. Okay. YouTuber's Life. Gladiabots? Did anybody play that? I don't even know what that is.
Yo, Gladiabots is dope,
Is
dude.
it? Oh, shit.
Yeah. So I don't think that's out on Steam yet.
Mm-hmm.
That is a game that is made by someone who used to work at Amplitude Studios, I think. Amplitude Studios made Endless Legend, Dungeon of the Endless Space, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what it is you get these like you get robots that are basically like a chassis with legs and then a gun on top of them, and then you visually program flowcharts that they go through, and then they fight other bots. So you'll be like, okay, if you're standing still, then if an enemy is within 50 meters, try to shoot them. If not, move to closest enemy, and then proceed back to the top of the loop. If they're within 50 meters, shoot them, etc., etc. So
that was a PS1 game, wasn't it called Carnage Hearts or Vandal Hearts or something? I've played this before. Hold on, go ahead. I'm gonna look that up.
Was there anything else?
I mean, it has like online. It has online multiplayer now, but I haven't played it. But it was really cool, like designing the behavior that the robots would actually take, and then putting it up against other enemies. And it's not just because it's programming, because everyone's like, oh, every time it's programming, it's programming, it's programming. No, this one is more like building a strategy. It's like playing an RTS. But then, like, you don't actually play the RTS. You pre-build it, and then you run it against somebody else's strategy.
Yeah.
So, like, you would be making... maybe your strategy is, like... The goal is to, like, get these balls into your goal. So, like, it's like programmable Rocket League. So you'd be like, hey, you could make a strategy that's like, hey, there's a really small dude who's really fast. Just have him run out there and get the ball and come back. But if you go up against a different strategy that's like... just shoot at anything that comes into sight. Like shoot at anything carrying a ball, you lose. But against different strategies, those strategies could become viable. So it's a very dynamic sort of like meta game, at least in theory. I don't know if maybe online it's just like everybody only uses Reno robots that restore your health fully to 30. Mm-hmm. Blizzard, why do you hate everything? Like, but at least in playing against the AI, I was like, this is a really, really cool concept. That was actually, it looked really good and worked well. And it's very difficult to teach a system like that because it's so different than like typical gameplay. So it was, it's good. I'm going to play more of that game like almost 100%.
Dope.
The game was Carnage Heart, by the way. It was a PS1 game. I rented it when I was like 13. Same game. It's the same premise, same everything.
All right, so this is now the 1993 indie review wrap-up. Sweet.
Yeah.
Did I get that right, by the way? 13-year-old Nick was 1993, right?
This came out in 97, so actually I just BS the number.
Oh, damn. Okay. Dead by Daylight. Getting into June now. Austin, you've played a fair amount of this, right?
Yeah, I actually really... I enjoy the game. I just wish it wasn't a fucking mess, man.
I think that's about all of our sentiments, pretty much, right?
I think the
glad
core...
it's a mess.
I think... I think Friday the 13th, which we just played a couple days ago, showed me how kind of easy it is to fuck up a gameplay loop or like an asymmetrical horror multiplayer. Help.
I do that all the time. You just start saying genre names.
Yeah, you just start saying too many genres. Friday the 13th showed me how Dead by Daylight is actually a good gameplay loop. But as I said, the game itself is broken. It's so buggy that it's almost unplayable to a certain extent. But I think the game still
it's got
what is it?
broken.
5 months later, yeah. Unless you're Almobaru, then it works every day somehow. No, I don't know how. But no, I enjoy the game a lot. I think it's fun. Just fix it though.
Yeah, that pretty much summarizes it. Yeah. Let's.
Dead by Daylight is fight.
Make it more broken, but working in a way that we can all laugh at it.
Sure.
It's just fun in spite of itself, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it provides a platform to be having fun, but it itself is like not very good.
Mm-hmm. The Solus Project. I played a bit of this. I know, Nick, you played quite a bit too, right? This is it's a good one, man. I enjoyed it. It's a fun little exploratory one, although there is quite a bit going on with it as well. I didn't get it deep enough to really go on record as having the experience. So I think, Nick, you should probably go ahead and take this one too.
So that's the thing when you said it's little, is it might not be little. I never finished it. There were, I think, 5 chapters, and I think they said the trajectory of the game was something like 10 or so hours, and it's got such a cool premise. Like, you're exploring an alien world in a survival situation, and you've got to mitigate some really terrifying shit, like the fact that it becomes subarctic outside at night, and if you don't get by a heat source, you're going to die. You constantly have to manage your hunger levels and your thirst levels and the various other levels of things like that. And that sounds like a great premise at first. So, survive on an alien planet. That sounds fun. And the planet graphically is very beautiful, and there's a lot to look at and a lot to go wander around in. And then they just kind of like send you down this story path, and you don't really do much surviving anymore. They just start handing you resources all the time, and the game kind of morphs into a different game. And I don't know if I like the second game as much as I like the first game. Maybe people would think the opposite, honestly. I mean, maybe some people would be put off by the survival element, in which case I guess this is freeing. You don't have to worry about the survival stuff as much. Regardless, the atmosphere stays good all the way through. And the soundtrack, from what I can remember, was interesting. There was a lot of really wild shit that happens with the weather. There's like a tornado that'll show up and kill you. You gotta like watch it. It's always like headed right for you somehow. It knows right where you're at and wants to kill you. A lot of backtracking I found as well, which I don't know if that was me playing it badly or that was actually how it was designed, but there was a lot of just kind of wandering aimlessly. But I liked it at a core level. I just couldn't get behind it as what it ended up being. Sort of like Layers of Fear, actually.
Well, there you go.
Might have been a bit long.
Yeah. Space Run Galaxy. That's a Ryan, right?
Space Run Galaxy is a really cool idea in the sense that that's the game where it's basically like a tower defense game, except instead of the towers being stationary, the towers are on your spaceship, and then they fly through space, and different enemies like come into frame, and you shoot at them. So it's a kind of inverted tower defense game, and what's really cool is the way that you manage the kind of the resource of how much space is on your ship. Like, you have to use the geography of your ship in order to plan like what to put there, but also, do I put cargo here that could explode and like break half of my ship off when it does? Kind of like a less dynamic Captain Forever remix, but static in kind of a cool way. I liked it actually, but I know it had some controversy when it launched because it was actually it had like always online because it uses a novel system where you can actually trade dynamically, like resources that you haul. You can trade those for currency with other players in the game who may need them to upgrade their ship in that direction. But that I actually quite liked it, and I was Madrinas to play it though.
Oh boy. Okay, hold on. I fucked that up. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I was going behind the scenes. That is Madrinas. That is Space Run Galaxy. Valhalla. Anybody play that? Or was that a Mathis?
I was told to play it a bunch of times, that it's got a very interesting narrative to it. It's basically like a visual novel through the perspective of a bartender who I think serves robots sometimes. This is where my understanding breaks down.
Okay.
But apparently a narrative emerges through the course of you doing your job, and it's very provocative. That's what I know.
There you go.
I was looking at the list and I was like, I don't see Valhalla on this list. And then I
Because
realized
it's
spelling is
VA11, like the least SEO friendly version possible.
Yeah.
Wasted. I feel like I remember this, but looking at it, I have no idea what it is.
It is Borderlands meets Fallout with jokes.
All right.
Borderlands had jokes.
Yeah.
Borderlands had some humor.
Did it though?
Ass pony or whatever they called it.
Any more on it, or yeah? Ryan?
We're gonna face a difficult decision, temporally speaking here.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna give like 2 minutes to every game on this list,
I see. Yeah. Okay.
we're gonna be trapped in a
I think we
nightmare.
gotta hit the highlights.
On that
Yeah.
note, then, Rec Room, good time, makeshift paintball / various other in VR games, in early access right now. It's pretty fun. I enjoy it. Let's get to, well, Inside we did talk about pretty extensively last week as well. I'll just note again, probably it is one of my Game of the Year contenders, not just indie. It was, I loved Inside. It was excellent. Rimworld, in early access here. Want to talk about that real quick?
Rimworld is probably, it's not really out, but it's like one of my favorite games of the year for sure. So Rimworld, I think, has the potential to be the game out of those sandbox games. Like, it's got way more depth than Astroneer. It's way more accessible than Dwarf Fortress. To me, it has a more compelling concept than Prison Architect, which is also an excellent game. I think like all of those are merged together in like the best way in Rimworld. And really, like that game, it could be out of early access right now. They could call it feature complete and just come out with it, but it might be in early access forever, which is also fine. So that game is really, really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Quadrilateral Cowboy real quick as well, because that was a little bit of me and not nearly enough of me. I should have played more of that one. I feel bad about leaving that one 90 minutes in, honestly, because that was a good time.
Quadrilateral Cowboy is not going to help my stereotype of only liking games that require some form of scripting or programming in them.
Yeah.
But in the interest of being, fair and balanced here, I actually think that Quadrilateral Cowboy is a game that does not deliver overall on its premise. I think the first couple of levels are really, really good, and the last mission really unifies everything. But apart from that, it really feels like 6 different mechanics that never really get used together, unfortunately. They never build up, they only build sideways, mostly for that game. But apart from that, I think that it's excellent. In terms of its concept, in terms of execution, it left a little bit to be desired, I think, unfortunately. And really, the programming in that game is not the strongest part. Like, you really only need to know 4 commands, and then you don't really get any more creative. In my opinion, at least, you don't get much more creative than you do in the first couple of missions. So it was kind of I thought it was kind of a bummer in the end, but I enjoyed it mostly because of its novel concept, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Blendo? 30 Flights of Loving People? Yeah, okay.
That's Blendo.
Next up is NECROPOLIS, which I had very lukewarm feelings about. Who was it? Nick, you played that series with us, right? It was me, you, Rob.
Yeah, it was me, you, and Robinson Victa.
Yeah. That was, we got 3 episodes into that and then immediately realized that we were going to be doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and there was not much variety to be found. So it's a dungeon crawler. It's pretty run of the mill. You're getting new weapons as you go. You're leveling up your character a bit. You're progressing, but there's not a lot of draw there. It's just I don't even know what to say about it. Really, it's just,
I feel like that game fooled everyone into thinking it had 90% more content than it did.
Absolutely.
Well, it had such a cool, intriguing visual style, and it hinted at such depth that we kind of all expected, well, this is going to be like procedural Dark Souls, and it looks like this. It's gotta be the shit. And unfortunately, it just was sort of shallow.
Yeah.
I still don't think it was a terrible game. It just wasn't nearly as intriguing as it looks.
Yeah.
You go through roughly maybe 3 or 4 floors down, and the floors are about 20 minutes each, and you've seen everything in the whole game.
Yeah.
You've seen nearly everything. I was blown away at how little there was in the game. And I'm not going to say I was salty that I spent was it $40 for the game or something?
$30.
It was way
It was a
too
premium
expensive.
price for what it was. In addition, they also were overly obtuse with what the game mechanics were. There was a lot of stuff that they just didn't explain for the sake of it seeming mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know, a lot of really weird humor that I didn't really find very funny.
Yeah,
But
that was one of the big turnoffs for me. It was just a really weird sense of humor. It was trying to be serious and funny at the same time. All the time. Constantly. It would
did neither.
hit you from either side, and you're like, what am I supposed to be feeling? I don't understand what the theme is here.
I still like the visual aesthetic, though. I think it's a pretty game. I think it's interesting to look at, but maybe that's the best thing it has going for it.
Sure. I think I might be the only one that played any of Fury, and I didn't really play that much. Furi, yeah. I did.
I didn't get around to that one.
I did like what little I did play of it. I think I might go back and try to play a bit more Fury because it looked pretty good. Death Road to Canada also may just be me. Oh, no, Ryan, you played a bit of that, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's right. You were pretty lukewarm. I feel that it is definitely not the strongest gameplay-wise, but it kept me going for some reason. I don't know what about it was. It was a very simple, arcadey, like pixel arty, just grind, and you pick up these new weapons on the floor. You're trying to beat through zombies and drive your car all the way on the Death Road to Canada. You get like 15 days or something like that. Where you go point to point, you're looking for resources, you're collecting bullets, food, other things, and just killing zombies. And it's pretty simple, but I had a really good time with it. I've got like 30 hours or something in Death Road to Canada. It took me a long time to beat it. It is pretty tough too, but I had a good time. I enjoyed it.
It's just one of those things where like, I really like the sort of like you can finish a run in just a couple of hours mechanic. But I really want that like mechanic that you're spending the most time with to be a lot of fun. And I'm not saying it isn't objectively, but I was like really bored of looting and smashing zombies over the face in like 45 minutes. But apart from that, I like the game, but the actual like central mechanic of it I don't really like. But I like the Oregon Trail side. I just don't enjoy beating enemies over the head with a wooden plank over and over. Yeah. I don't like beat 'em ups that have that much verticality, and the way that system works is really just a side-scrolling beat 'em up. But that's on me, honestly.
Yeah, fair enough. Videoball. That's Videoball.
Oh man, what a story behind that.
It made a lot of memes.
Sure did.
Yeah.
It's
Videoball, I think. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Locally, I think it's really fun. Online, we saw the man behind the curtain as soon as we had somebody else host the game, and then all of a sudden I wasn't nearly as dominant. So, I mean, the netcode is, in a way, the netcode's great because nobody knew that the host advantage was so ridiculous, but it did introduce an imbalance for sure. Mm-hmm. And I also feel like Videoball is like, it's one of those games that is very... it's really, really well liked by other game designers in a way that doesn't always translate to mass appeal. In a way that like I guess in the end it wasn't that watchable. And also I'm like, people largely just don't care that it's like a really elegant and pure game. They just want something that's more viscerally enjoyable. And I can understand that completely. So Videoball, I mean, I liked it. Some of my favorite matches this year were in Videoball, but they were all lies. So
you went like a week without knowing why you were dominating us so badly. It was so funny when that came out.
Yeah, I really just thought I was amazing, like a god at the talent. Game. Yeah.
Polybridge.
I know. The other thing quickly with Videoball is that it's like Rocket League just does that. Like it's similar enough to Rocket League that I'm like, Videoball would have to be like really fucking good in order to like eat any of Rocket League's lunch. But they're just similar enough that you're like, why would I watch 4 people play Videoball when I could watch 3 people play like high res 3D soccer aerial anyway.
Yeah. Polybridge, also this year, just a fun little simulation bridge builder. Probably seen this in GIFs throughout the internet without realizing what the game itself was, but here it is. It's a good time, yeah? That was just
so
Ryan,
chill. That game's like, no, I played it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a relaxing game, and it's both relaxing and perplexing at the same time, but you don't feel so pressured by the game to be like figure it out or you're an idiot. You just kind of like, just chill and figure it out. If you figure it out, cool.
I really like Polybridge. The only problem is the bridges, they get too difficult, in my opinion. They get so difficult so quick. They're like, I have 7 hours in that game. Like 2 hours of it is building bridges, and then 5 hours is like, no, this strut doesn't work. Okay, like delete it. This strut doesn't work. This strut doesn't work. But the whole time, you got that nice little like acoustic guitar kind of meandering in the background, and the graphics are really nice. You're like, this is a good way to spend my time. But like, I'm too dumb to anything requiring hydraulics or suspension. Like, I cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
I spent hours trying to do it.
Would you rather, though, that it has too much depth than too little?
I would just like a gentler curve. Because,
Okay.
for me, it was like, if the ambient experience of just having a pleasant time playing it is the draw, then I would have liked to actually succeed on some levels.
Right.
I beat like 30 levels, and then that's it. Like, I just can't get further. But I kind of like conceptually that it's a really like cute looking game that's very difficult, but it's too much for me.
Abzu was gorgeous, but just didn't really have the lasting value for me. Really, it's great to play. Actually, it's 2 or 3 hours of just beautiful and enjoyable underwater atmosphere, but it's also very linear and really does not have a lot going for it gameplay wise. So it's one of the Journey likes, and it is by the same creative director as well, so that's to be expected. But I found it to be more of a beautiful art piece than an enjoyable gaming experience.
It's the swimming metaphor, swimming equivalent to a walking simulator, only, you're underwater. It's got incredible visual and auditory polish. Like, the production value of it is top-notch. If you're looking for something to, like, bask in the glow of your beautiful new monitor or something, you couldn't ask for much better than Abzu. It's so pretty. So for that reason alone, if you want to look at cool fish, like, check out Abzu. It's so good.
I would say Abzu is the most walking simulator game out there right now, which isn't necessarily a negative thing, but if you're looking for any gameplay, that game has no gameplay at all. But it is beautiful. And I think, weirdly enough, it has a really satisfying ending as well, which is rare for those kinds of games.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I was Madrinas to play this, and I will say that genuinely, I was sponsored to play it. But I will say I think Abzu is probably my favorite walking simulator of the year. Over Firewatch, over Adrift for sure. Like, that game held my attention throughout and didn't bore
out its welcome.
Yes. Didn't bore the Christ out of you with email logs. And the way they construct the environment, because it's not set in the real world, it creates a cool it can structure that mystery where you're like, oh, what's that? I don't know. There's Roman columns down here. That's weird. Like, is this the current Earth? Or, and then, whoa, is that alien technology? It's super weird. But so I think Abzu was like, it was like Fantasia, but in video game form. And I really enjoyed it. Definitely number one walking sim of the year for me.
Oh, yeah. This is the Police, I think Ryan also only played, and that was sort of just meh, right? Kind of boring, too.
Yeah, I think I don't like it as much as a lot of people like it, because I don't know, it deals with sensitive subjects in an extremely ham-fisted way. And, like, when that's supposed to be part of it, when part of it is supposed to be that it deals with mature themes, it's like, it's just a very weird way to handle it.
Yeah. Like,
the game is not doing a good job of handling, like, a mature topic if it just goes like 3 days into the game, it goes like, hey, the mayor's really racist. He wants you to fire all of your black police officers. Are you going to do it? And you're like, that's not a nuanced way to deal with this issue. It's like, be like, do you support murder? Yes or no? A tough decision, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? So I think that they kind of, like, got a little bit over their heads with, like, mature themes that they did not handle in a way that is satisfying at all. Okay. It was more like, racism exists, and you're like, okay. And then the loop was like the actual Papers, Pleasiness of it was just like, just okay, I thought.
Reigns, I enjoyed quite a bit. Really simple, just swipe right or left game. It does exactly what it wants to do, though, and I like it quite a bit. It's funny, it's enjoyable. Good time. Not much to say about it. It's only like $3 too. If it's on sale, it's probably like they'll pay you money to buy it. So go get it.
Possibly like an easy candidate for like the best mobile game of the year. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so much fun.
The interface is really simple, and it's got a cool way of approaching the way they laid out the mechanics. Like, you don't expect it to take a turn, and then it kind of goes somewhere else, which is neat.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Did you play Reigns, Austin?
I didn't. I really want to though. Still,
Just
like,
get it
it's
on
still
your
on
phone,
my
man.
list.
You got to get it on
Yeah.
your phone. It's so good. Worms, Weapons of Mass Destruction, real quick.
The
It
best.
is Worms.
The best recent
Okay, that's
Worms
good.
Sorry, skip. I don't know if it's visible to
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
Sky
everyone's
viewers, but,
skipping.
yeah.
We're trying
Internet's
real hard
being
to
an
make
issue,
this.
but-
I don't know what the fuck's going on, man. I've dropped 60,000 frames. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Couldn't be 9,000 more.
I know, right? All
like
right.
15 minutes of frames.
I know. So grow up. I played a
Why?
a
What did I
touch
do?
of that. I played a touch of that. I don't like the controls in Grow Up. Was I the only one that played Grow Up, or
No, I played it.
I thought
I
it
played
was?
Grow Home recently.
I thought it just felt really clunky to move around. Do you echo that at all?
It has the same sort of like. I mean, it does have some imprecisions in its controls. The way that it gets around that, and you may feel that it's artificial, is you can basically terraform anything. So it's kind of like Astroneer. That's like, you get stuck in the ground, and then you just like, okay, I'll just dig out the ground with my gun. Or like, I'm trapped in a pit. I'll just build like a big staircase up here with my gun.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I liked it. It was kind of like a really short collectathon, like N64 style 3D platformer. I thought it was pretty cool.
Sweet. Kingdom New Lands expansion to the Kingdom base game from last year. Free if you own the base game. Extremely good. Love it. Highly recommended expansion for that game. One of my favorite indies of last year. And plus. Did we play that? Did we even get around
I played
to
it.
You played it. Mm-hmm.
It's very much N plus
Yep.
again. It's just got so fucking many levels. Like, if you're into N plus, you're gonna love it because it's just almost endless. But I personally don't love the physics and platforming controls to it. It feels too floaty to me. Granted, that's very subjective. I prefer something a little crisper, I guess, than that. If that's a way you can describe controls, I don't know.
Definitely the game I ate the most shit on this year in
Yeah.
terms of like my Let's Look At. So,
I get it. The momentum feels fluid. It just isn't what I want out of a platformer, personally.
yes.
Sweet.
But it's probably great if you like that mechanic.
Tricky Towers. You guys been playing quite a bit of
Yo,
this on
Tricky
the NLSS.
Towers. Yeah,
AKA
that is
Wind
like
Tetris.
low-key one of the best multiplayer games of the year. That, I mean, I don't know if it's being slept on, but I think people just go, it's like a Tetris variant. But the puzzle mode of that game elevates it to a level beyond just being okay. Like, that's actually a good multiplayer game, and the online works. Full stop.
Perfect.
It's a great game. I'd love, honestly, like a couple more modes, but I don't want to be greedy.
We
But
gotta put our names at the top so we can see who's
Also
which
true.
tower.
yeah, that's a good point.
I would play, like, an hour of Tricky Towers a month for, like, the rest of my life.
That's
I don't
awesome.
want to play 4 hours in any given day ever. But if you're like once a month, we're gonna get together and play Tricky Towers for an hour. I'd be like, okay, let's do it.
Oh yeah.
Mostly puzzle mode, though.
Yes.
Okhlos was August as well. I think that might have been only Mathis, although Ryan might have played a touch of it.
I played Okhlos. It was decent, I thought.
Okay.
Funny, weird kind of like mob-based roguelite-ishness that felt a little loose, but otherwise okay.
Okay. Overcooked. Really loved Overcooked. One of my favorite multiplayer games of the year.
Abduction.
Skipped
Oh
Abduction.
shit! No, I
man.
did.
was,
Yeah, you're
I was
right.
ready
My bad,
for it.
My bad. No, let's go back. Abduction. Yes. Austin, hit me with Abduction.
Great game. I will say, if you ever played a Myst game and you had fun with Myst, Obduction you need to play. It is a trip back to the good old days of Myst, and it's very fun. It's just a solid environmental puzzler with a nice, satisfying ending as well. Really good.
Awesome.
I can't say much more for spoiler reasons. But
Yeah.
It's a weird game. It's fun, though.
I did play
Very
that
pretty.
in VR briefly at PAX, and it was awesome in that. Although, Nick, you had a kind of a motion sickness.
Yeah,
scene.
well, it made me feel a little sick, personally, but I was playing it just fine, mouse and keyboard style. I'm coming to learn now that I think I have more of a propensity for motion sickness than I thought I did with regard to VR. But the stuff I was doing where I was like stationary was no problem, and some of the movement stuff, even like Windlands, I'm fine with.
Yeah.
It's just some games.
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to blitz through these now. We took a lot of time at the beginning here. Overcooked. Yeah. Overcooked. Absolutely one of my favorite local multiplayer games of the year. Tons of fun to play with a friend. The levels are great. I think the design's solid throughout. Just a lot of fun.
Genuine like game of the year candidate, I think, that is going to be overlooked by a lot of people. Overlooked by a lot of, because of the fact that it's like local multiplayer only. If they had online multiplayer, every Twitch stream will be playing this.
Mm-hmm.
This, Friday the 13th, say bye-bye. Everybody's going to be playing Overcooked now. Get ready.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that Overcooked doesn't have online really limits its accessibility. But if you can get another person to play it with you, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Batman Telltale series, I think, might have just been Mathis with us. Final Station, I played a bit of. It never hooked me at all. I got like an hour or so into it, and I just was bored. It's the loop. I believe Mathis actually went into this in detail, the episode we were talking about it, but it was just not really satisfying, and it is the same. Like, watching later on in the game, it is like the same thing managing through the train throughout the entire experience, so... Never really held on that well for me, but I've heard decent things at least about the story. Mathis did gush about it, actually. Said the story was pretty damn good later on. Let's see. Let's get to... You want to get to Redout real quick?
Where's Rob?
That's a good question.
He still hasn't bought Redout. Eventually he'll try it. Redout is like a Wipeout-style futuristic sci-fi racer. It actually draws direct influence from those style games, your pod racers, your F-Zero kind of thing. And it's really, really, really pretty. It's stunning looking. It's also very fluid. And its general sense of momentum and speed to it that feels really, really good. It's probably the best and closest that I've seen come to a revival to that style of gameplay in recent memory. So if you're a fan of those types of games, you should definitely check out Redout. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but in its defense, they just recently added another set of tracks with another environment. So I think it's like, close to 30 tracks, which is acceptable, I think, for, what was it, $35, $40?
It's got one of those issues where you have to play the single player to unlock the map. So when we wanted to play multiplayer, we only had like 5 maps. I like to call that the Rock Band 1 conundrum.
Or the Sonic Racing Transformed conundrum.
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer.
Same. Yeah. Really solid game, though. Definitely check it out if you're into that.
Clustertruck.
Has VR also.
Yeah. Clustertruck I had a lot of fun with. That was one of my favorite games in September. Really enjoyable movement in that one. So it's a clusterfuck of trucks. You're jumping very quickly, truck to truck, trying to get to the end of each level. Really quick, actually. I like how fast you just get from level to level. Actually, it's like you win and then instantaneously, bam, next level. You just keep going and going and going and going. So it really works well. The loop is really satisfying. The levels are cleverly designed in quite a few cases. It's interesting to see what they do with just the trucks being hurled at you from whatever angle.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, too, the devs of the game actually jumped into one of my Twitch streams and just started fucking with everything. That was a lot of fun, too.
Yeah, there's a Twitch enable mode.
Yeah.
It kind of plays like a first-person Super Meat Boy. Like, imagine the floor is lava, like the game you played when you were a kid, but you're riding on top of trucks. And you're doing sets of like 10 consecutive levels with a theme on them, and they get progressively more and more crazy, culminating in a final boss that I found infuriating.
Yeah.
Mathis, of course, beat it in like 2 tries for some reason, but I really didn't like the final boss. I wish it just didn't have a final boss. Just give me 10 more levels instead.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
Other than that, I loved it.
Mother Russia Bleeds, that was a Ryan one, right? Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, all right. Keep going.
It's a beat 'em up. Like, you need to go heads and tails above the competition to make like a novel beat 'em up in this 2016, the year of our Lord and Savior. It's just, you cannot make an interesting beat 'em up by just adding like one mechanic. But maybe people want a classic beat 'em up, but I don't. Like, I need something beyond that. So there's like an interesting gimmick. You can either like heal yourself with a resource, or you can use it to get like more powerful. That's about it. But the fact that there were unskippable cutscenes when you died sometimes was extremely aggravating.
How about what the box? I'm actually curious. What is what the box?
It's like a deathmatch game where everybody's a box.
Oh. I guess that's...
We never got around to playing it. I was gonna push it as an NLSS game, but it just never happened.
Okay,
so I don't know why it's on the list actually.
It's like, what the fuck is that? Jackbox Party Pack 3? Why not? It's,
Exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah. It's just slightly better than the Jackbox Party Pack 2, right?
Like, a couple of the games are basically only playable locally, in my opinion. And the joke wears kind of thin sometimes. Like, TKO is a fun idea, but after you play a couple of times, you're like, it's basically just a random picture being matched with a random punchline over and over. Like, winning has no consequence. So it's kind of... I'm not even that competitive, but at the point where competition like needs to exist to some extent if your game is themed around it in order for it to be enjoyable. It was just like, whoever wins, pick a number between 1 and 10, sort of. But
if they could just take all their writers for the other games and move them over to Quiplash prompts, I think that would be solid.
Just make a Quiplash expansion pack like every year.
Yeah.
But or Espionage is really, really good, but it needs more prompts. And Trivia Murder Party is a great game that highlights the need for them to make it so it actually streams to everyone, not just the host.
It's been a consistent criticism that pretty much every game they've released has needed more prompts. Like, throughout everything we've done with Jackbox, and it's kind of frustrating they keep releasing more games without prompts.
Yeah.
I think Espionage specifically, like, we played like 2 streams and we were at repeat prompts. Like, it was instantaneous.
Let's go to, Shadow Warrior 2 again on the list. Nick, one of his games of the year.
I really like Shadow Warrior 2. It's got a Borderlands-style loot system. It's pretty, you can cut people up any way you want. There's multiplayer. Some people don't like it because of the loot system. I do. Suck it.
Atlas Reactor? Do we have any more suck it verdicts coming up? I'm excited about those.
Not for Atlas Reactor because we were Madrinas to play that
so
as
can't
well.
say that.
I haven't played the release version yet, but I like it in concept and I liked what we played of it. But we were like vastly outknowledged, which led to us getting crapped on when we didn't have Cobalt with us. Like I just didn't know what half of the abilities did. The same thing happens to you in Dota, like the first few times.
With Dota and League, you're not going to get people to play these games. Doesn't matter how good they are.
Yeah.
I think there's a discussion to be had about that. As like, like you're really gonna come out with a MOBA in like in 2016?
MOBA in 2016.
Like I get it, but you got a lot of talent. Like, your people have worked in the industry for like 10 years, 20 years. They're gonna die eventually. You're gonna have them spend like 2 years of their life working on a MOBA in 202016.
It's getting real dark. Okay.
Like the game is actually
not
good.
right.
I thought the game was pretty fun, honestly.
I know. I think the game is good, but at the same time, it's like I think Austin has a point where, like, who's coming out with a MOBA? Who's greenlighting a MOBA right now?
It's a good question.
I don't know.
It went free to play, right?
Yeah, it's free to play now.
They've changed the monetization model as well.
Thumper. Just an intense audio experience, man. Like, just do a bunch of drugs and play Thumper. That's my recommendation. No, I can't actually say that. It is so much fun though. It gets really tough at like level 5. It's pretty damn difficult to get past, but it's really satisfying to play. I only wish that it was more aligned with the actual soundtrack, the gameplay itself, because it does feel a little just like, I don't know what the word is really for it, but like separated from the audio every now and then. It just feels like you're sort of arbitrarily doing things, but when it works phenomenally, and the visually and audio is just, it's so good. Definitely worth playing.
Yeah, I noticed that disconnectedness too, actually. There's parts where they want you to feel like you're synced with the music, but it's just sort of off a little bit.
Yeah.
Which makes it much harder to do the action they want you to do because you're trying to sync it in your mind, and you have to actively separate the two things.
Yeah, you have to mostly
So, yeah,
sync
it
it
subverts
visually,
itself.
which is weird. Goner, I also played. Very difficult. I had a hard time wanting to play more of it because it's super fucking tough. But I enjoyed what I did play of it. It's the art style for it is really interesting, minimal but effective, and I enjoyed the gameplay. But I can't get past like the second stage. I've played like 2 or 3 hours of it. It's really, really hard. Ryan, you played that too, right? No, you didn't play Goner. Okay.
Yeah, I keep not playing it because I'm putting it off for some reason, but I really need to. It looks so pretty.
Let's go to. I'm gonna.
Deceit sucks.
Okay. Now I'm gonna jump
Moving on.
pretty far into November with Planet Coaster, which we have talked about extensively pretty recently too. Planet Coaster's fantastic. I think we're getting a lot of really.
That was
really
my
positive
game of the year
responses.
pick for sure. I love Planet Coaster. I hope to play it for years to come.
Owlboy is an interesting one. I think was expected to be a lot better than it was. I enjoyed it, but it certainly wasn't like Shovel Knight level or something like that. And like it's not a legendary indie, but it's pretty solid. It's got like enough going for it, but it's really just sort of a generic platformer otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really like it very much. I thought I was gonna like it because the graphic style is so pretty, but then I didn't like that the whole game was you carrying around people, and then kind of the same puzzles, and then like way too much dialogue.
There's
in my
a lot.
opinion.
Yeah.
I know some people love the story, but I did not like the story personally.
Shenzhen.io. Hey, Ryan.
Shenzhen.io is a great game, and none of you are ever going to play it, so I can make up a bunch of
played
lies
it.
about it.
What do you do in
played it.
Shenzhen.io that I'll never play?
Shenzhen.io is a game where you
I just want you to
Make
lie.
elect-
I just want you to tell me all this bullshit about something I'll never experience.
it's like they did No Man's Sky, but right.
Oh.
They delivered on the promises that were actually requested. It has online multiplayer.
Hell yeah.
There's a free expansion pack every 15 days, and the gold that you farm in the game, they will actually give you real world currency
Yes.
at a pretty fair rate
Yeah?
to convert it into real money. And it was made by one 14-year-old. Pretty amazing.
It's free.
It's free. Just a portfolio piece. So,
None of that is true
in-
about Shenzhen.io.
no.
in case
In
you just joined
actuality,
us.
Shenzhen.io is a game where you solve puzzles using assembly programming language. It is Papers, Please, but instead of analyzing the differences between, a person's passport and their face, you're like, hey, I'm going to solve a problem in another boring way using like an antiquated programming language, but actually the process of doing so is exhilarating. And I've gushed about this game a lot. More so, I've probably spent more time talking about it than I've actually spent playing it, to be honest with you. But that's because as a novice programmer, whenever I find myself having time to play Shenzhen.io, I'm like, I should just read
just
more
program.
of this textbook, to be honest with you. Like, I should get another couple of lessons done here. So, but it's really, really good. And if nothing else, it might not widen the pool of people who play Zachtronics games, but the people who already played it are like, this is my jam, like 100%.
Yeah.
It basically takes their last game, which was a TIS 100. That might have been like 2 games ago, but it takes TIS 100 and then adds like another layer over top of like using actual microprocessors and LED lights and stuff like that in order to actually make devices instead of just programs.
Right. Genital Jousting, none of us play because it's banned on Twitch, but I bet it would be fun.
I still want to play it. It looks fun.
Yeah.
Nothing's stopping you.
Road to Valhalla, another one I got Madrinas to play. Nothing much to explain about that one. Very, very straightforward, just sort of rolling a ball through a maze, but it's fun enough. Political Animals, Ryan and I talked about quite a bit a couple of months ago. It's another political simulator with a couple of mechanics that are unfortunately broken that do sort of taint the experience. They've made some attempts to balance it a bit since we last talked about it. And they actually emailed me to run over some of the changes, but it's still just it's a decent enough time, but it's not really it's not the top tier political simulator. Not even, based on just the novelty of what it is, animals in their own little fun world. It's you could play better, to be honest. Beholder was unfortunately another lukewarm game for me. It just once I actually loved Beholder right out of my initial impression, but then 2 or 3 hours in, well, first of all, like what really turned me off pretty heavily was the fact that I felt like I was doing well, and then all of a sudden I got hit with like 3 or 4 bills for an obscene amount of money, where the only way I could have actually been ready to do that or to pay that was to have been doing illegal things and kind of framing my residence to make cash on the side beforehand, which I didn't know, and I wouldn't have known had I well, I don't think I really ever would have learned that unless I played through and then saw it and had to do it again. So I didn't really enjoy that, but I did like I thought the design of it was interesting. The little silhouetted characters I think are kind of cool, and it is difficult, unfortunately, to pick them apart as a result of that, but I think it played to the aesthetic and the theme pretty well. Yeah, it was just an unfortunately weirdly balanced game that turned me off as a result of it. And how about Ghost Lords, real quick?
FTL meets Pokemon, but the Pokemon are ghosts, and you collect them, and you also fight them, and you go through a series of procedurally generated event areas where you can decide the fate of your ghost team and try and make it to the end of each campaign. There's 5 campaigns, probably a good 10+ hours worth of gameplay for $10. Art style is fairly simple. I really enjoy it. It's fully moddable. A lot of personality to it, some silly monsters to discover and such. I recommend that game. I think you should all check it out. Mm-hmm. Almost nobody's heard of it, and you could be the first one in your friends group to tell your friends about it.
Sweet. And then Copanito. Ryan, I remember you had some fond feelings about this game a little while ago.
Yo, Copanito is like the best game of the year that is going to be sunk because the online just does not work.
Yep.
Like that, it's move or die. It's exactly the same thing. It's like an arcade. People are like, why don't they make games like NFL Blitz anymore? Why don't they make games like Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey? This is that. It's great. It's like Mario Super Strikers, Mega Man Soccer, etc., etc. But the online doesn't really work. Sometimes you can get like a good game, but really, like, playing against the AI was fun. I got like my $5 worth out of playing against the AI for sure. Mm. But if you want to play with friends, it uses like it just doesn't work. Like the P2P online makes it so like you're actually like not in, you can't see anything, and then like you're just getting styled on.
Yeah.
If you want to make $1 billion in this industry, what you need to do is develop middleware for indie developers that handles net connection.
Yes. If you are like a John Carmack level genius, it would behoove you to invent some kind of like modular middleware that people can just put in their game engines. That is just like you check a box and then like it opens up a bunch of stuff that they can just hook UI elements up to.
You would grow in the whole industry, including all the Twitch streamers and YouTubers. We'd all move up in the world.
All right, and I don't think any of us played Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun. Last Guardian is not indie, thank God. So, Astroneer is the last game, the wrap-up, and I think it's a good one to end on because I am really excited about where Astroneer is going. I think it's
fun. I'm worried we're going to run out of content for it very quickly, and I think I'm probably right on that.
Yes,
for now,
still,
probably. Yeah.
We'll have a good time regardless.
It's a nice like framework to expand on in the future, but it does. Mathis always says like, why is an ocean shallow as a puddle? I sort of feel like that's what we're discovering about Astroneer, is that it's beautiful and there's lots of awesome stuff that you discover the first time you're on the planet, but then like we flew to another planet and we're like, hey, there's oxygen, let's like go back and like it just seems like possibly we're maybe just getting the surface, but hopefully they've got an awesome platform that they can iterate on, and then if we are indeed getting close to the end of the content, in Astroneer in a year or 2 years from now, it'll be more like sandboxy and Rimworldy in a way that you can create your own fun, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about Osiris New Dawn, which was another space survival kind of sandboxy game, and that had very much the same, what I'm perceiving to, think is going to be an issue about Astroneer, but I think it was even worse than that. I think we were done with all the content in like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
They have been adding to it, thankfully, and hopefully Astroneer will be just the same. But that's just endemic of the system lately. It's just so many games with very little content coming out early to try to generate hype, but I think in the long run it ends up doing the opposite.
Yeah.
Because you get burned out on it and you don't want to play it again.
Yeah. Anyone else, something we probably missed throughout the course of anything particularly noteworthy? Want to make sure we get on? Think we're good?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we skipped over AM2R, but I mean, that's not really so much an indie game as, well, it is and it isn't. It's a Nintendo property reimagined as an indie game in a way.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. I know you're not really supposed to play it, but you should maybe play it if that's possible for you and you're a fan at all of Metroid games.
Good shit.
I might do a video on it because I think I have a lot of things to say about AM2R. Go ahead.
Yeah, right on. Okay, well, I think that does it. And God, I'm so sorry. I have no idea what happened tonight, but we dropped like 100,000 frames. I hope you enjoyed the basically audio-only version of Roundtable Live tonight. The VOD is fine, though, so if you want to watch the video itself, we got the whole thing on a local file, so that's not going to have any drops. So if you want to catch that, you can catch that on any of our YouTube channels. Bear Taffy, Rock Lee, Smile, Northern Line. Mathis will have it up on his channel as well. He's out celebrating holidays, of course, so we want to wish him
I'll
well.
upload it for him. It's fine.
There you go, yeah. Of course, happy holidays to all of you as well, and thank you very much for another basically full year of support here on Roundtable Live. We really appreciate you. This has been a whole bunch of fun. We're going to keep doing it because fuck it, right? Might as well. We also want to thank Madrina's Coffee for sponsoring the December run of Roundtable episodes. You can go to madrinascoffee.com/roundtable, enter a giveaway to win free coffee for an entire year, or use the code roundtablecoffee.com. What am I talking about? It's way too late. Roundtable Coffee is the code to save 40% on anything on the online store, madrinascoffee.com/shop. Thank you very much to our Patreon supporters as well over on patreon.com/roundtable. Julian Avelsgaard, General Crunk, Jonathan Graham, Scotty119, Trevor Farley, Chaos, not a new Patreon supporter, just changing my name, Theorist. Colby Klein, David Schmitz, Greenlight, Oren Saltzman, Christopher Flagg, Eric Schooley, Brizzlebrit, Positron, Mythscare, Mediocrities, Justin Smurfett, and Logan Ray. Thank you guys all very, very much for maintaining your support over there on the Patreon. Thank you guys. Thank you guys, Ryan and Nick. I was just going to say, and to Mathis, if you were here as well, I appreciate you guys taking the time every week to be here on the show with me. You guys are awesome. And thank you, Austin, for joining us.
For Mathis.
No problem. Anytime.
No, thanks for Mathis.
Thank Mathis. Thank Austin. Mathis didn't even show up.
Thanks, Austin, for collecting Mathis's Madrina's check this week, and thank you all very much for tuning in to the show. We are not going to be here next week. We're all taking off for the holiday, but we'll be back in the first week of January. That is the 3rd, I want to say. Or no, it's the 5th. The 6th. Let me keep lying to you here. The 6th of January is when we'll be back here for more Roundtable. And until then, we'll say thank you very much again for watching, and we'll see you next year. Bye.
Later, everybody.
Bye.
RIP 2016.